Hold your horses.
And it looks like we are live now. So good evening, good afternoon, depending where you're at. It is 10 o'clock here in Scotland. It is 5 o'clock Eastern time, 4 o'clock where you are, I believe.
It is.
And we have you on for the Negro League Baseball Marketplace Art Card Competition. And I have the amazing Anika Orok. Anika, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So last time we chatted, you were in the process of moving to Memphis. Are you feeling more settled in Memphis these days?
I moved to Memphis. We moved to Nashville.
Nashville.
Jason, how come you can't keep up on my personal life? Gee whiz. No, it's good. It's, it's different, but yeah, I am finally getting used to it. We moved here and then pandemic. So we didn't get to explore much, but now we're settling in. So it's good.
So you're good. So you've got enough now. You've kind of explored a little bit now to kind of feel like it's not quite the Bay Area.
Yeah, well, all you got to do is step outside in the summer before you realize it's not the Bay Area. I was so spoiled by weather. It's ridiculous. I knew I was spoiled, but I didn't know how much I was spoiled until I stepped out into Nashville summer.
Right. Is it that bad out there? Again, I'm a West Coast guy. I grew up in Seattle. So, I can, empathize with how it is in the Bay Area. So what's the difference between Nashville weather and obviously San Francisco?
Well, I mean, the breeze, I miss the breeze. Stepping out here, it's like someone just throwing a hot, wet blanket on you and it just doesn't move. It's like this sort of oppressive humidity and heat, but there isn't even like a movement of air to provide any sort of respite. It's just like, so yeah, that's the best way I can describe it.
No, I understand.
Permanent sauna.
I've been laughing because obviously Seattle's been reaching 100 degrees there, and I've been saying we hit our heat wave here in Edinburgh. It hit 70. It was really hot for us. So.
Wow. I feel like that you just invited a mass exodus to Scotland with the West Coast. I think it's just going to be this way. It's always going to be on fire now.
Let's hope not. Let's really not.
I hope not.
Are you missing your Giants? The Giants are in first place still. Are they right there? So you must be missing going to the stadium.
Oh, that's probably the thing I miss the most is being able to just hop on the BART train and be there. Just decide, like an hour before a game, I think I'm going to go to the game, that I miss that a lot. But thank heavens for the internet and the at-bat app and all that. It's a little hard because we're later here in Central Time. So when the game starts, I feel like I'm just getting ready for bed. But if I fall asleep, that's the beauty of it is now you can listen to it. So I'll wake up and like, no one tell me what happened. And I'll listen, while I work during the day. So yeah, it's great, but I do miss it. We were able to go to a game in May, and that was awesome. And I'm hoping to get one more in before the summer's over. So we'll see.
We'll see. Hopefully, like I said, travel seems to be okay in the States there. So at least you can go and visit a stadium. I don't know if it's full capacity there yet or not. I know various places. I know for like the Seattle, they actually have a vaccine center in the stadium so you can get your shot and see the game.
Yeah, I saw that when we were in San Francisco, and I think they just went to full capacity maybe like a week ago. But when we went, it was half capacity. And I mean, of course, there are things you miss about a full capacity stadium, like first and foremost being the energy. But it was kind of nice, like ordering food on the app and just like grabbing it right behind you and having some space to spread out. And I didn't mind that. But yeah, I did see a vaccination station, and I don't know about how everyone else is dealing with it, but I know based on my reaction, I feel like that would be an awful idea. I mean, it's a great idea, however you get vaccinated, but I did not have a great reaction. And I feel like sitting through a ball game feeling like that would probably, I don't know, be a waste of a ball game.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's not the best way to spend the game. I can understand, watching a bit of it, but if you have a bad reaction, like you're really not enjoying the game.
No, yeah. I mean, especially that second shot. I don't even think I could have watched the game on television after my second shot, but I think I had like an extreme reaction.
Okay, that gives me hope because I said I get my second shot next week. So I'm either going to be really busy or I'm going to be just on the couch going, okay, this is not a good idea.
Yeah, I recommend to anyone who hasn't gotten their second shot yet, just get like all your goods in. Like we ordered soup ahead of time, our favorite soup, and had it in the fridge, and like stocked up on tea and everything just in case. And we definitely used it, but you might not. In which case, then you have stuff to enjoy anyway. But
So
yeah.
I'm noticing something behind you there. You've got this book up there, the iconic jersey. What's this?
Oh, that's awesome. Y'all see, I'm living in Nashville now. I can say that. If y'all don't know about it, that is a an exhibition catalog for an exhibit at the Worcester Art Museum in Massachusetts that just opened. But it's not even a catalog. It's like a gorgeous book. I can't believe the work they've done on this book. It's amazing. But the exhibit itself looks incredible. I can't wait to go see it. It's the history and again, it's all about the baseball jersey, how it's iconic and how its placement in culture, and then how other cultures have used it as a way to either assimilate or share their cultural identity, or and like its relationship with fashion. They have the Elton John sparkly Dodger uniform used for the movie, the biopic, but they've got all kinds of really cool stuff, and they were really kind enough to use some of my art in this book. And I will be speaking, I think, the last Thursday of the month, or the third Thursday, some Thursday. I'll keep you updated. I'm terrible. I need to look it up, but I'll be presenting through the museum about the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League, their tunic uniform, because it's such a differently iconic version of the baseball jersey. And they have Lefty Alvarez, Isabel Alvarez's uniform in the exhibit as well. So I'll be speaking on that and the design of it, and a little bit about Otis and Dorothy Shepherd, who had a hand in it. And so it'll be fun. Todd Radom did a whole thing on it, spoke on it, and he has a bunch of his work in the exhibit and in this book. And it's just an awesome book. It's really cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to I did have Todd on the show, and I spent an hour geeking out with Todd, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we are scheduled to chat ourselves. Really just we took it upon ourselves, like, hey, let's just talk art and design, and put an episode up. And I feel terrible. I've had to reschedule on them a couple of times. I'm really looking forward to it. And the reason I had to reschedule is I knew that the time I had allotted was not going to be enough. I'm like, it's going to be tough to keep it to an hour, because I could just geek out with, I can see how that could happen.
Like I said, I mean, you do this professionally. I'm just a fan, and so like I can imagine the conversation would be to be a fly on the wall to see where this is. Like I said, you guys need at least 3 hours, because it's going to be it won't be a short conversation between you two.
No, there will be some heavy editing that'll have to happen if we're going to make it digestible for other people. Because I'm sure, I mean, us both doing this professionally in some capacity, that's the other thing, is I'll have to try to remember not to like get too specific with, like nerding out on some specific kind of marker or something that nobody knows. I have to keep the shop talk like sort of at a manageable minimum, but we'll see.
I think you guys will be fine. I think you guys both have an audience who understand where you're coming from, and the shop talk will be a lot of fun. So we have a mutual friend in Tim Godden, and listen to you guys when you guys interviewed and you guys talk shop. That was probably the fascinating part of the interview, was just listening to you guys ask the questions between two professionals, and I got to sit back and enjoy it and just watch it happen.
Well, that's good to know. Thank you. I mean, that's good. Sometimes I feel like, people are not going to care about this. So that's good to know. I guess, yeah. I always appreciate being able to watch that with other people and hear them talk about process and stuff. So that makes sense, I guess.
I said, you can count me in. I'll listen for 3 hours or an hour, however you guys wanted to do it for. But yes, so speaking about the All-American Girls League, do you want to talk about your book? Because again, it's a fantastic book. My girls love it. I've read it to them multiple times.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. Man, there's like, it's funny because there was a while there where I really resisted people saying anything about it being a kid's book. I'd be like, it's not a kid's book. But it's an all ages book. And I've always said, well, if kids read it, that's awesome. But actually it's like the more, the whole point of it and the purpose of it is really manifested through seeing young girls reading it. When I see pictures or hear stories about Parents reading it to their kids, or some guy posted on Instagram recently, like he and his daughter took a bike ride to a local independent bookstore and bought it. And he's like, she didn't even make it home. And there she is, like sitting in a park reading it. And I was like, oh, that's the best. And that's what it's all about. I love it. Yeah. So, and the anniversary of A League of Their Own, the movie, just happened the other day, which is of day before yesterday, which also falls on the anniversary of Wrigley Field's first night game, which was played by the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League, which not a lot of people know that. So I like sharing that.
I did not realize that.
Yeah. They, because Wrigley Field was the last ballpark to get permanent stadium lighting set up in 1988. So a lot of people think their first night game couldn't have happened until then, but it actually happened in 1943. They set up temporary lighting behind the first and third baselines, and the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League put on an exhibition game as a WAC recruiting rally. And they did it again in 1944. So the first two night games were played at Wrigley Field by women. Fun fact.
The neighbors still complain about it, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's amazing. I did not realize that. I know I've got the 1988 or 1989 scorecard with Wrigley Field's first night game on there, but I didn't realize that the ladies had played there. That's really cool. I'll have to, next time it comes around, I'll make sure I'll share that with everyone so everyone else can know that.
Yeah, it's a fun thing to, like, there are not many opportunities to stump baseball people, especially being a woman. I feel like a lot of people, there's a lot of effort to like try and stump me to test how much I know or anything. So I very rarely get the opportunity to, when someone starts talking about the first night game at Wrigley, I love to pipe in and be like, actually, you can say it's the first Cubs night game, but it's not the first night game at Wrigley.
That's a fair point. So yes, exactly. So I get that. I guess people are always trying to one up each other, no matter how much knowledge you are, and there's always be someone that's smarter than you. So
yes, yeah. And then when you're like on Twitter somewhere where John Thorne is, it's like, oh, forget it. You're like the official. No one can know more than you. All right, fine. It's both enjoyable and like exhausting to know so many great baseball people with so much baseball knowledge. It's like, oh man, guys keeping me on my toes.
Absolutely. That's funny you say that, because the same thing, Heavy J had talked me into make a card for this competition, and I was going to do it this week. I knew it was stiff competition because I knew you were in there, and I knew who else was coming up. And then Todd Radom dropped his card, and I went, no, I'm out. There's no way I can compete with him. No matter how bad my card is, it's just like, there's no chance.
Oh man. Well, I mean, I think you absolutely could have done a great job. I love the stuff you've done, but I totally feel that because, I've been so busy with stuff that I really have, like, it's been a struggle just to keep up with our campaign and try to share and retweet. And I really feel, unfortunately, I'm embarrassed to say, a little bit out of the loop just because I've been so busy, but I also feel like that was in some ways a good thing because I wasn't really seeing all the cards until just like yesterday and the day before I started scrolling through, and I was like, oh my God, if I had seen all these before I started mine, like you, I might have been like, I can't, I can't do it. There are so many great cards, and I just, I decided to have fun and experiment and do something I'd never done, which is like such a bad idea when you're trying to compete. It's like a great idea if you're just experimenting, having fun, but when you're using it as like a piece that you need to like show your best work and compete against others, like, oh, what did I do that for? But it's okay. It's done now, whatever, it's in. And that's not the point. The point is not to win. The point is just to get it out there. So it takes the pressure off a little.
Exactly. And I think everyone had a lot of fun with that. And at some point I would produce a card when there's less pressure. But fair
enough.
But this brings us to a perfect segue. Let's bring up your card. Let's talk about your card, and you can walk us through it here. Let me share the screen here. And you can walk us through your card here. Okay, and we have your card up here. So you've put a lot of time and effort in doing your card. You may have been experimenting, but you've got a whole backstory to it. Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, let's see. I can't see it, but I can see. I don't know why I feel like I need to see it to talk. I don't. I know I was there. I lived the story. Well, so you know, I love baseball cards and I love the design and the graphics of them and the look of them. But there's a thing that I've sort of been experimenting with lately in doing some portraiture of like important figures in civil rights or like you know, for example, like when George Floyd, when the ruling came, I was inspired to do a portrait of George Floyd, but I wanted to sort of show a different side of the tragedy, so to speak, by doing something that incorporated something beautiful. And so I was collaging flowers from like vintage wallpaper. And that kind of like sparked this idea because the life of Josh Gibson is just as powerful and legendary and interesting as his baseball career too. And I don't know, so I kind of started playing with that idea a little bit, but then for whatever reason, I kind of also started thinking about, like, for example, the flowers, like the state flower of Georgia, where he was born, and the state flower of Pennsylvania, where he moved to and started playing baseball and then eventually built his legendary ball playing career. There was something like all these kind of metaphors, these sort of like poetic metaphors started coming into my head of like, you know, the kind of the saying of grow where you're planted, just kind of kept coming up in my head. So I pulled up what the state flowers were. And as I was reading the descriptions and the attributes of these flowers, of the Cherokee rose, which is the state flower of Georgia, and the mountain laurel, which is the state flower of Pennsylvania, I was reading about these flowers and how they came to America and how they were propagated, and then the attributes of the actual plants. And it was like, okay, I have to do this because there's just like so many parallel metaphors that are so, that in my mind, I feel like perfectly encapsulated and sort of told the story of a legend and a legacy that continues to grow beyond the person. So like kind of the story of the beauty and the strength that rose out of tragedy, and also baseball as like this, you know, folkloric sort of story. But then also when you plant something and it continues to grow and live and flower and bloom like long past, you know, the person who planted it even. So it kind of sparked this idea of making that the art. But then I was looking at these old botanical prints of those flowers, and in some of the images that came up were like these seed packets, like seed packet art, which I've always really loved. And then that kind of gave me the idea. It all came together where I just thought, I'm going to make this into a seed packet, like a baseball card, but also a seed packet.
Absolutely.
And man, surprisingly, mountain laurel seeds are hard to come by. But in this like this small seed and feed store somewhere in the middle of the country, I was able to find some and order them. So it is an actual seed packet, and I put mountain laurel seeds inside. So when I do finally auction this or sell it, whoever owns it, the idea is that hopefully you live in a place where this will grow. But it'd be really weird if you live in like, you know, the Mojave or something. So good luck. But if you live in an area where it'll grow, the idea is that the person who owns it can plant these seeds in honor of Josh Gibson, and, you know, watch them grow and kind of perpetuate that idea. So that was the idea. So that's where this comes from. So the link that I provided on my website, I wanted to give people an opportunity to see what was written on the back of the seed packet, because it's kind of hard to include in like a social media post, and it's also pretty small on the back of the packet. So you know, this way people can read the story that goes with it, which kind of ties it all together.
No, that's amazing. I love hearing about the concept behind everyone's thing. Some people just kind of put it together and do it at that. But I mean, you've actually put a lot of time and effort into coming up with the concept behind this thing there. And it wasn't just like, all right, I'm going to do this really quickly and see how it does in the competition. So where do you know anywhere where it might grow? So we might actually help people build and grow it.
Well, if you live in Pennsylvania, you're set because it's the state flower. The only problem is if you live in Pennsylvania, if you plant it and you decide you don't want it there, it's illegal for you to remove it after that. So, yeah,
Right.
so you're stuck with it. But I know it grows in a lot of those kind of areas. I think it's actually the state flower of a couple of other states also, but the Northeast and the South, pretty much like anywhere from the middle of America eastward, I think it grows best. There may be some West Coast spots that it grows just fine. But yeah, I know pretty much middle America eastward is where it grows best.
Okay, great. Well, I'm gonna see if it grows out in Scotland or not. We'll see how we do out this way.
I feel like almost everything can grow there, right? Unless it needs like dry, hot heat.
Pretty much, yeah, I would say so. It's pretty much like Seattle weather, except for summertime. Like I said, I told you it had a heat wave and it hit 70 here, so it doesn't get very hot.
Well, it is part of the rhododendron family. So I imagine it would probably grow okay in the Northwest because rhododendrons are pretty big in the Northwest, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And they're big out this way too. So that it might have a chance. I might have to put a cheeky bid in and see if we can get some out in this way and you have yourself and Josh represented out this way.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I learned a lot about Josh Gibson's life in researching this. I also learned a lot about growing zones and botanicals is an unexpected bonus education, I guess, in researching this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's funny enough, we actually have palm trees out in some of the beaches here. So if a palm tree can grow out here, I'm sure we can get this to grow out this way.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Agreed.
So what was the most? So you did a lot of research. What was the most interesting thing you found about Josh when doing your research?
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, just such an interesting. I mean, the couple of things that I didn't know were actually more like personal life things, as opposed to career things. I think his career is remarkable, but like a lot of people who left such a strong impact behind it happened in such a condensed amount of time. Like I knew he died young. I didn't realize he died that young. And that there's also been so much talk in previous years, in my understanding of Josh Gibson about his demons, so to speak, and his issues with alcoholism and different, and anger and all these different things. And I always thought of it as like, well, that's kind of the yin and the yang of these larger than life figures. Are like geniuses are always like a little bit complex and have other issues. So I always thought of it that way. I didn't know that he lived with a brain tumor as long as he had. And he lived with it for several years after it was diagnosed, but I just imagine all the years that it was actually growing in his brain. Like that's like a real thing that'll actually affect how you deal with things. So it's like, I feel like not enough people give credit to that aspect when they're talking about his personal life. And then you couple that with like tragedy, dealing with racism and exclusion from baseball, and then managing to be tremendous at playing baseball. It's like that, all those things together, like blow my mind. The fact that he could be so good and accomplished with all of that going on. I'm always amazed at stories of perseverance like that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff I didn't realize about Josh before we started doing everything there. So, sorry, you're getting a bit of echo. I'm trying to, let's see, there we go. See if that does the trick. There we go. And that I just didn't know about his personal life. And I think Sean's been so forgiving with his time to get more information about Josh than I would have ever guessed we would have had for a Hall of Famer of his caliber.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yes, there's been a lot of interesting information that's come out of a lot of people say they've learned more than they expected, because again, you focus on the statistics and the player, and we've got to learn more about the person, which has been fantastic.
Yeah, and I think that really opens up, like, I think it's really important to think about that, because people's accomplishments, there are people who are so adept at focusing and pushing things aside, and then there are people who are adept at actually using their personal experiences to fuel their athleticism or their accomplishments, and then there are people who, despite these things they're able to do things, or because of certain things they're unable to do things. And it's so, I think that we're, as a society, we're so good at like parceling those things out, but we're all human. Like you can't eliminate those experiences from your overall experience because they actually have something to do with it. And I think it's really important to consider when we talk about who's telling stories. You know, I think because baseball is such a predominantly white male arena and baseball history and storytelling and all of that. You know, I think some really wonderful, important stories have been brought to the forefront because of people who are doing the right research and have the right intentions and care about these things. But I think more than anything, learning more about Josh Gibson kind of opened up that idea to me of like, I think it's a really good time to start allowing voices who have a deeper understanding of what someone's life might have been like to assist in telling those stories. Because like, this is like, Josh Gibson's life was like this on top of this on top of this on top of this. But if you even eliminated all of that, just the mere fact that he was a Black man who excelled at baseball, but yet people still continued to call him the Black Babe Ruth, you know, like that a benchmark of awesomeness was still being compared to a white guy playing a game that he, you know, it's like he couldn't be competition because he wasn't even allowed in the game. So, and how they persevered just in that way, that's a story in itself that I think if you allow someone who has a deep personal understanding of what that's like to tell that story, you're getting so much more out of it. And I hope that things like this prompt people in the baseball community to start like sharing that platform and that space and that information and allowing the right people to tell those stories. Because like a story like Josh Gibson's is like, it's just like layers and layers, you know?
So, and again, and you're a wonderful storyteller with the research that you've done for the Women's Professional League as well. So don't forget to give yourself a pat in the back for that. That opened up a lot of people's doors. So, because I said, you know, not only that, as I said, to share with my girls, I know there's many girls out here in the UK that have liked your book. I know they've bought your book and they're a big fan of yours. So Molly, if you're listening, there's a shout out for you. I know you're a big fan, and I don't know if she's watching or not, but she knows that you're on. So.
Oh, I love knowing that. Hi, girls. Thank you, everyone. Yeah.
So, all right. So our time's up. Where can everyone find your work? And give them a shout out for your socials and that, and then we'll let you go for the rest of your day.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I've got my website, which is my name. I think my name's on the screen. So it's just myname.com, anikaorak.com. On Instagram and Twitter, I am Anika Drawls. That's ANIKADRAWLS. I know that's kind of weird. It throws people off, but there's a whole thing behind that and it won't change. So may as well roll with it. And yeah, I guess the voting for the Josh Gibson cards is now live on NLBMart.com.
Yes.
I can never get that straight. It's like walking and chewing gum.
Same thing.
And on Twitter. And
yeah, I have that in the JG20 MVP campaign.
Yeah.
Neither one of them rolls off the tongue very well, but we're getting there.
Yeah, even typing them, like if I'm doing the hashtag, I'm like GGJ20. Like I have to really focus.
Yeah.
Yeah, the dyslexic side of me really struggles with all of these things I'm involved with, but it's all right. As long as we get them. But yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks again for coming in. Always a pleasure to talk to you, and I'm sure we'll talk to you again sometime soon.
You as well. Thank you so much, Jason.
Bye-bye. Have a good one.
Bye. Akron. He's in Akron. Okay, bye.
Yeah, that's all right. There we go. Got you out. All right. No. Good. Sorry, we're going from one interview for the next interview, so it's kind of like we're jumping and we're chopping and changing, and Anika was giving us a little bit more time of herself. But Daniel, how you doing today?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing all right. So yeah, sorry for a little bit of wait there. I said I knew this kind of happens. We're going back to back here. So so tell us a bit about yourself, where you're from, and what's your day job?
Yeah, right. I am originally from Cleveland, Ohio. I live like an hour south from there right now. I work at Kent State University as a graphic designer. And yeah, that's what I do. I'm married. I've got a son. Just do lots of art when I'm not doing actual designing.
So you're actually a graphic designer. So this wasn't a big push for you when you got involved with the card art.
Right, exactly.
Right. So Kent State, I want to say, is not where Eric Kittleberger went.
I believe he did, yes.
Yes, he did. He said it was a very
Yeah.
hard program. He told us a
is.
wonderful story about how difficult it was to make it through his 4 years there, but he ended up doing that way.
Yeah, it's a difficult program, that's for sure.
Did you go to Kent State as well, or did you go
I
from?
did.
So-
I went to Kent State and the University of Akron, which is just like 15 minutes away. Started at Kent, went to Akron, got my master's in Kent.
And then you ended up getting a job with him right away,
Yeah.
or
No, not right away. It was actually kind of funny. I was working at like a few places, like some agencies. I worked at a publication company, and then I got a phone call if I was still interested in the job at Kent State, and I didn't even remember applying for it.
right? Okay.
So like, that's how long it was that like I applied there, and I was like, yeah, for sure. And that was over 4 years ago, and it's been awesome.
So do you just work for the university? Is there a specific department you work for?
Yeah, I work for the College of Business Administration.
Mm-hmm.
So anything business degree from like undergraduate to master's, PhD, I take care of all the marketing.
Oh wow. Okay. So that must keep you quite busy there. So you do the marketing, and you actually do the marketing and the graphic design of that?
Well, I mean, I take care of like marketing materials.
Right. Okay.
But I mean, it's not a big office. Like, I mean, there's only like really two of us that are the meat of it, and then we just kind of work with every department to make it happen. So I mean, it's busy.
Yeah, no, I have no doubt it's busy. I mean, I said with the business, they must have at least, I don't know, like 8 different departments within there. And so I'm sure
I don't
you
even know. Like, I mean, I feel like there's like so many things I'm being asked to do. It's like you kind of lose track when people are like, "Oh, well, what departments do you work for?" I'm like, "There's a lot." So
it's a business. Just say businesses covers it all. That's what.
Yeah.
And so I'm seeing your cards behind you there. So obviously, is this your own artwork? Is this cards you collected? And I see a couple of Josh Trout prints behind you as well.
Yeah, I've got 4 Josh Trout prints above me here. I've got a Francisco Lindor collection, which like kind of just feeds up in here. And then most of the stuff I have up here is all card art. I've kind of put it all in my case. So I mean, everyone I try to collect that I know of that's done card art, I try to pick up at least something from theirs. And I mean, there's a few people here like Eric's. I think I've got just about like every one of his cards. And then down at the bottom, you got like a Back to the Future collection. So
Back to the Future collection. Explain that.
Yeah. What's up?
Explain the Back to the Future collection then.
Yeah, it used to be both of these display cases, and then I kind of just ended up giving it all to my son because he's got obsessed as much as I did with the movies.
Right.
And so I just honestly, I kept like some figures and a DeLorean, and the rest is his.
So you're actually talking about the movie there. I thought it was maybe one of the card things there. So I'm coming from things is I am a junk wax guy, and I do another show called Teen Tops, and my buddy Graham does all the modern stuff there. So when I've gotten back in the cards 2 years ago, I didn't understand the parallels and the refractors and all the stuff that comes with it now. So I thought this was just some variation of new cards I didn't know about.
No, the cool thing was I was super excited when FDOT dropped the Lindor with a Back to the Future reference.
Yes.
Amazing. So like that was a must-have.
So did you buy a 5-pack, 10-pack, and did you get a foil?
No, I've never bought a 5-pack yet.
Right.
But like I do have just a single. I've been lucky, and I did get 2 foils this year.
Who'd you got so far?
I got Willie Mays by Morning Breath. Randy, why do I always say his name wrong?
Rosarena.
Yes. I got his by Jacob Rochester.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, so I mean that was cool because I mean last year with Project 2020, I bought basically all of FDOT's collection. That was really it.
So you have the whole collection then? You've got the first couple cards then? Yeah,
I've got all of his P2020s, companions, Stadium Series.
You're doing all right, yeah.
Yeah.
I regret not buying those earlier cards. I jumped in at Gwyn Grotesque and Matt Taylor's Ricky Henderson. I was like, all right, those are pretty cool. But I knew about it from Ermsey Trout. Yeah, that's just a weird card.
I know. Like I didn't go right away, but at least I was like kind of early on because I heard about it. And it was like a Clemente I picked up, which is actually for my brother-in-law.
Right.
And but I didn't buy anything for myself. And then like after it came in the mail, I'm like, this is really cool. And so then I started watching, and I actually met FDOT at a design conference. So I'm like,
oh really?
Yeah. So I'm like, I need to get this card of his, and then I'm like, oh, I got to get this one, and I'm like, well, I guess I'm just collecting all of them, and then this year I tried to like I just couldn't do it. Like I mean, I was trying to collect so many stuff, and I'm like, okay, I gotta just be selective because.
Absolutely, I think everyone's that way. I think everyone bought the first 50 cards,
right,
and then and went, okay, there's no way I can afford this set, so I've got it. So then you kind of saw the next 50 cards. I think everyone kind of went, okay, cool. Now I kind of see which direction they're going, and then you started pairing people off. And yeah, I'm down to 2 myself. I know I've only have 1 that I've collected the whole set for at the moment. So
okay.
So I'm doing Sif. I like Sif's work. I don't think the cards have been fantastic the last 2, but oh well. I want them. I want my damn gold poster.
I know that's where I was trying to do 5.
Right.
And then I added it all up. I'm like, I can't do 5. That's like a lot. That's a lot of cards.
Yeah.
And then I kept selecting them and then we booked a trip to Disney World, and I'm like, yeah, I definitely can't buy. And so then I just started doing the parties, and so I'm like, I want at least 1 gold thing. You know what I'm talking? So I'm like, I got to keep it going for at least somebody. And so I've just been selective with who drops what.
I think that's kind of the thing now. I think you definitely see in the print runs going, all right, everyone's down to just picking up who they want, and there's a couple extra cards here and there, and then print run comes out and everyone scrambles to pick up that card.
Right. So you've been seeing some that don't even hit 1,000. It's like,
oh gosh, so it's the Sean Witherspoon A-Rod as a Mariner is 726 is the low right now. Yeah, exactly. Yes. So so
think about it, how many people could buy these?
But yeah, I mean, it was the same time. I think Sapphire came out, so I think everyone was spending the money on Sapphire, and so I think it was just kind of perfect storm. I think it ended on a Sunday as well, which never helps on any of the artists. And yeah, no, it's interesting to see these print runs and how they're going. So, but how is FDOT? Is FDOT as cool as he seems? I was a Patron member for a while. I tried to catch anything by him. He seems like a really cool guy. He actually donated for the fundraiser I had last year, and I can't say enough good things about him. But you actually got to meet him. Tell me about it.
Yeah, he's a super nice guy. So I was at this conference in Georgia, and he came out on the stage on a skateboard. He's doing kickflips and stuff. I'm like, this guy is sweet. And then I'm seeing his artwork as he's showing it on the screen behind. And then he just had this little booth. They had it wasn't a big room, a decent sized room of vendors. And he had this little table where he was selling a few prints, and he would draw something for you if you wanted. It was super cheap. This is before Tops. And so I'm like, yeah, so I got one for myself. I did one for my friend because he did I don't know if it was a mural, if it was a basketball court or tennis court in Argentina. He did something in Argentina.
Yeah, I think it was a basketball court. Yeah.
Yeah. So my friend's from there, so I'm like, okay, can you do something for him? So we did that, and then since then I've just been following him on social media, and then I was in New York last month or the month before, and I saw he was just doing this pop-up shop at Oakley for Lindor stuff he did. And I'm like, I'm gonna be there when you're there. So hung out there for a little bit, and I bought an Oakley hat where he personalized it, and got a little tote bag with the mural on it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, cool guy.
That's awesome. Like I said, like he's agreed to come on the show sometime. We just haven't been able to find out a time yet. So I'm pretty thrilled about it. So that's pretty cool. You're actually going to meet him. Like I guess that's the downside of living 3,000 miles away in another continent. Is that I'm just gonna pop on over to see these guys.
That's fair.
Cool. So tell us about your art. How did you, I mean, obviously you went from graphic design perspective. How did you get into it? What motivated you to start from an early age?
Well, my grandpa was an artist. He was like pretty like he wasn't famous, but like I mean like popular within his community, I guess you could say. And I see him like every like we'd go there. I mean, I was there often, but every Sunday like he'd be in his like little. He called it a studio, but I mean it was like a little bigger than like a small little bathroom,
Mm-hmm.
and like he just had a table in there. And he was always in there painting, and since then, like I always wanted to do art. So like, I'd always just draw that kind of stuff. Um, but then like recently with all of this, like I bought like an iPad Pro, and it was either right before or like right when COVID hit. And I was I was on Netflix, and it was like some movie about like Madam CJ Walker, like hair products.
Right.
And like I just started looking her up on like I Googled her, and I'm like, oh, this like these like product packaging is like really cool. So like it started with that, with me like just like illustrating like packaging.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just decided just for fun to like draw like baseball cards of the 90s, like a player from each team of the 90s I thought was cool. And I didn't do anything with them. It was just for fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then like I posted it online. I think at the time, at that point, there was like a Project 2020 where people could put their own like art creations in. And so like I started doing that, and then people were like, oh, that's super cool. And then I decided to do like, what a lot of people did. Like I did my own version of like Project 2020.
Right.
And then after that was done, I just kind of tried to take it like a little more serious and like a different style. And I've been trying to, do like at least like a card a month. I mean, if I have time, I'll do multiple cards just so I can like, have them on hand.
Yep.
And yeah, it's been fun, like getting in contact with like all the other like card like community and getting your art out there. And I mean, people like actually wanting it is cool, because like I went into it like with no intentions of even thinking about selling it. And I'm like, cool, people want this. So I've been doing that. And then like the handcrafted like card art, I've been doing that too. And it's been fun.
Do you have a preference on which type you do? Or
I mean,
I know, I imagine each has a different satisfying ending for you.
yeah, I mean, it's like originally like I tried the handcrafted, and I'm like, I just don't get this. Like I'm like, why do people like this so much? And then like I did it like a couple more times. I'm like, yeah, this is actually kind of cool. I do like this. Like it has like a satisfaction to it. And yeah, it's like totally different, because I mean I like seeing like my illustrative stuff, because like once you put them all together, it's kind of like a series.
Mm-hmm.
When like the handcrafted stuff, I kind of don't, I mean it's like my own style, but like I still like kind of, it's not a cohesive design. So I mean they each have their own satisfaction.
Oh, absolutely. I got turned on to it last year, and I found it very cathartic just to sit there and cut cards. And
Right.
so I can totally realize what you're talking about. That it's two different outcomes, but yeah, I mean it's a lot of fun to sit there and kind of cut the cards up, and then try to figure out how you're going to design the card so it works best with it that way. So yeah, so my hat's off to everyone that can design and can do card art, because I did a few cards and realized I just don't have the time to put behind it, because it's not just like, oh, I'm doing this in about an hour. They take much longer than that.
Yeah.
So do you got a favorite card that you've done?
Yeah, there's one of my own, well obviously because you asked if there's one that I've done, but it was like a Lindor I did.
Yep. Okay.
And it's so like usually like I'll do like I'll put like kind of like my thing is like I'll put like a signature on them.
Mm-hmm.
So like I've been using my wife bought a Cricut, so I've been using that like more than she does. And at first it was like, I'm like, how do I use this? And now like I know like the back ends of it. And but no, that's like kind of my favorite only because like I collect him. Like I've been
Mhm.
collecting him like since he was like in the minor leagues. And it's probably not my best one, but like personally, like that's my favorite.
So is there any hope that you actually meet him to get him to sign one of your own cards?
I would love that. And the thing of like, I feel so stupid because I mean, he was like with Cleveland for so many years, and me and my friend like we like would go in on like a 20 game package. So like we each had 10 things like tickets, and he would sign every game, but like before the game, like always at the first baseline, every single game. Like he was just there,
Right.
and I never went once. And I'm like, yeah, I'll go like eventually, like although because it's always like kids down there, and I'm like, I don't want to be that guy that I'm like shoving my arm through a bunch of kids.
Or with 20 baseballs trying to
Right.
hide.
I'm like,
Yeah.
here, sign these. Um, so no, I never went, and now it's like, okay, well, if I ever decide to go to New York or if he plays a game somewhere close to me, it's like chance it, or if they do send-ins, but like I prefer to like do it in person because I think it's kind of cooler that way.
Oh, absolutely. I think if you're a fan, is your favorite player, then I think that's the only way to go is either,
Right.
try to get him at a game or try to see if he's signed somewhere in the off season. But with his contract, I don't think he's hurting for a $50 signature at the
Oh,
moment.
I seriously doubt it. I even like bought his like New Balance shoes that came out, and they're actually like they're so comfy, but like I just don't want to wear them. I just keep them in my case.
Fair enough. You know what? He was actually promoting those over here. He like went and played cricket one day,
No way.
and we're all like, "What the hell? Like, why didn't you tell anybody?" There may only be like 5,000 baseball fans in the UK, but you know what? I would have gone to Liverpool and take that 5-hour train ride to go see him take cricket. Play for a little bit.
Yeah.
No, he was in and out, but by the time we knew about it, and I was absolutely gutted about that because it's not often you actually hear about professional players over here.
Oh.
We're all like, oh, if you would have known. And saying that, you would have had 5,000 people show up to Liverpool and try to figure out where he was at too.
I'm sure.
At least now he's noticeable with his blue hair, so I pick him out of a crowd.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, he might be easy to pick out. Like, if you like have an idea where he might be going.
Yeah, I'd say we get that happen every once in a while. You'll see someone, a lot of basketball players come through here, and they kind of stick out when you're 6'10". So okay, that guy's a basketball player there. But like when you're his height, without the blue hair, you might not actually recognize that he's over here. So
Probably not.
cool. All right, so I'm gonna pull up your Josh Gibson part. I want you to talk us through what you did for the card here. So let me just pull this up here. Okay, and you can tell us more about it. And hopefully it works this time. Last time it froze my computer, and that was not the best way to do a live show. So okay, so there we got your card up.
Yeah.
Just tell us about the inspiration for it and what you were trying to achieve when you made this.
Yeah. So what I wanted to do, like, I kind of wanted to make it look like a period piece, while still, making it like a little more modern, like, by putting like the Gibson MVP logo in there. So like the size of it is, I believe it's the same size of like the old, like in the 30s, like the Goody cards. If I'm saying that right. And so the front, like I mimic the back as well. Like, so on the back of the card, there's also like information like in that same format. And like I kind of like I try to make it look worn by, like texturizing. Like, so like I made the template, like I found the card of, Josh, use that as like the basis of it. And I mean, it's like 3D, pops out. But then the background, like I found this like paper that kind of looked like leather.
Yeah, I would say it looked like leather. I wasn't sure if you actually had used like maybe some, I hate to say it, old glove, but
Right.
something along the lines of that to get that texture there.
Yeah, like I found that, and I was like, when you feel it, it feels just like a piece of paper, but I'm like, that looks like leather, and that's like so cool. So like I wanted to use it. And I mean, that was basically like, my basis of it. I wanted just to make it look old, like, like not necessarily old, but, give that vintage look. And then I threw in my signature, like signature
Yeah.
on the card. On this picture, I actually replaced the signature with Joshua when we found out from Sean about how he would actually sign his name.
Right.
So that changed. But I mean, besides that, everything stayed the same. I did a second one as well, which was like the same, like everything was the same, just like the picture was different.
Okay.
It was just like one of him batting, but I think there was like a quote on the back and a little bit of information on him.
So what you're saying is you got a sneaky companion card that no one knows about yet, right?
No, they're actually both gone.
Oh, they're both gone. You've already sold them. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, that was exciting. That when I put those up, they went like right away. I still have like some illustrative ones I did.
Right.
So like I did like some of these.
Oh, hold on, let me stop the screen share so we can actually see it there. Otherwise, no one's going to be able to see this. And of course, this works really well on a podcast as well, so don't worry about it. I think everyone that's watching the show and the podcast is I missed the live show, so I've probably already seen the card here, luckily. So
I'll try to describe it. That
no, it's all right. Yeah, you can go for it.
So no, like I did like this is like kind of like a signature, like a standard thing I've been doing this past year, like keeping everything like along like the same template.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's like for instance, there's like another one like I recently did, and so it's like the same thing. So like at the end of the year or whatever, I don't know how many I'm doing, but like just like they'll all have that same border,
right?
And like so I mean it's pretty basic, but you know I just did like this illustrative version of him, and then on the back I've got my logo with his stats, and they're all signed, and they all come with the certificate of authenticity from the Josh Gibson Foundation. So yeah, I made a few of those and made a few prints. So it's the same thing as the card, but they're just like an 8x10 print. So I mean, I still have some of those available, but the handcrafted ones that were in the contest, those sold. So that's awesome.
They went quickly, did they?
They did, yeah. It was really cool. I was like excited, like because I posted it. I'm like every so often I look at my email. I'm like, did anything sell? And then I see I'm like, oh sweet, the main ones, like the ones I actually showed, those are gone. So. Cool.
That's amazing. So that must have been quite exciting for you to go, all right, I've done it, and you've seen everyone else's work now. So you were week 3, so now we're in week 7, and the competition is completely changed now.
Oh my gosh, there's like some cards I've seen. I'm like, this is like unbelievable. Like it makes me think. I'm like in my head, like I'm doing my piece, and I'm like, this is amazing. And then like you see other people's work, and we're like, yeah, mine's all right. Like
yeah, exactly.
But I mean it again, like it doesn't matter. It's like being done for a certain reason, not for like your own gain.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I know like Heavy J had roped me into doing my own card, and then I saw a couple of people's work, and I'm like, I'm done. No way. There's just no way. So it's been really cool to see everyone's interpretation of their Josh card and right. How they've come to what they want to do and how it inspired them. Did you find anything when you do your research about Josh that what you found inspiring you didn't know previously?
Well, there was a bunch of stuff. I mean, before all this started, I mean, like I'm sure a lot of people I didn't know much about him. When it came to like Negro League players, like I think of like the obvious ones like Satchel Paige, like people you hear of that went to the major leagues. So I mean, really, it was like totally fresh, just like learning like all the stats about him, like how great he was and how much people looked up to him as a player.
That's crazy. I mean, you knew he was a great player, and now that the stats have been official, it really blows you away just how great of a player he was.
It is. It's crazy, and I mean, it's awesome. Things are finally slowly, stats are becoming those are like legit, and people will begin to like especially once new books are written, like people will actually learn about these players that a lot of like a huge majority like don't know.
Yeah.
Like unless you're like a real like historian and like really study the game.
And it's not something that's easy to find as well. I mean, you really have to go out there and look for it. It's not like it just kind of follows in your footstep and go, oh great, this is fantastic. And no, you actually have to go out and find that information.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we're almost out of time here. So before you promote your social medias, I got one last question for you.
Yeah.
All right. So the Indians, the name's going to be gone soon. Yeah. Is there any way which way you're leading for a team name? There's a few of them out there.
Well, my two that are out there that I like the most are Guardians and Spiders.
The Guardians. I haven't heard the Guardians yet.
There's like Cleveland Guardians because I mean there's a bridge, like you can see it from like the front gates, and it's like the Hope Memorial Bridge, and they're really cool. You should look it up. Like they're like these like statues that go across the bridge, and they're like guardians, and like they're like holding like different modes of transportation. It's like very like Art Deco. I mean that's my favorite. I like Spiders. It's already been done. I mean they were the Cleveland Spiders. So it's like, yeah, it's cool. And like, you know, you can have a lot of cool logos. Like, I think you can have like potentially a cool uniform with that and like cool merch.
Yep.
I don't know. I just feel like, you know, it's already been done, even though it was forever ago.
100 years ago, a century ago. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah, I mean, that's where I'm leaning and just kind of waiting to see when that's actually going to happen. Like, 'cause, I mean, I was told before I was going to get tickets with my friend, like we didn't go in this year. But they said originally it was going to be this year, and this is going to be next year. And then someone said, no, it's not even going to be next year. It's going to be the year after that. So who knows? Like, I'll just wait.
Fair enough. I asked Todd Ray the same question on his opinion on that. He goes, it's going to take 2 or 3 years. Like I said,
Yeah.
a rebrand just takes too long, and there's just no way you can get it done overnight. So who knows? Like I said, I think we're all kind of waiting to see what they come up with the name, and then the rebrand that goes with it.
Right. I just hope I like it.
Fair enough. All right, Daniel, where can everyone find your work?
Sure. I have 61ststreet.com is where you can find the majority of my work. Also with I have a shop where I only sell my handcrafted art, which is on the baseballcard.art on Matthew Rosen's site. So I'm in the guest artist page on that, which is also 61st Street. And you can find me at 61st Street _cards on Instagram. And I'm on Facebook. But I mean, really, I'm mostly on like Twitter or Instagram posting my stuff.
Fair enough. All right. So Dan, thanks so much for coming on. We'll promote your stuff after the show so everyone can find your work there, and we'll show you on social media.
All right. Sounds great. Thanks.
Brilliant. Thanks again for coming on, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
And here we go. And so I'm going back to back. This is the second to back before the next one. And there's that. But I have Ryan Collins, the 40-year-old version of the 10-year-old self. Did I get that right?
Yeah, sure. That's good.
Right.
It tells a story.
All right. How you doing today, Ryan?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. So you're outside there and you're wearing a Braves shirt. I'm going to assume you're somewhere in Atlanta. I'm just going to throw it out there.
That's a negative. I'm in the Chicago suburbs. I've been up here for like 20 years, but I did grow up watching the Braves on TBS, like several other kids and people growing up in the 80s. And so I just decided to wear some Dale Murphy today because Dale Murphy's a special individual.
So is Dale Murphy your guy then?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, like I love watching him, and I love following him now that I'm entering the social media world. It's fun to still have kind of an observation of what he's up to and what he's doing, and love Dale Murphy. Always have, always will.
That's fair enough. Like I said, you're absolutely right. You're harking back to a lot of people that grew up. Again, I grew up on the West Coast. I'm from Seattle originally, besides being out in Scotland for the last 18 years. And my days was watching the Cubs, and then watching the Braves, and then watching the Mariners. And that was my summer.
Yeah. I grew up in Northeast Ohio, and I've lived here in Chicago for 20 years now. But where I grew up, we had TBS. We didn't have WGN, or I probably also would have been a kid pulling double duty, and who knows what kind of shirt I'd be wearing.
Exactly. My guess, Ryan Sandberg.
I'd probably have some Ryan Sandberg. Yep, that's fair.
That would be about it, because it said Andre Dawson, but that was 87, so it was more of that. But I mean, I'm a big fan of Dale Murphy myself, because I watched a lot of those TBS shows, and I didn't realize till later he was from Portland. So close enough for me to say a local boy, because there's not a lot of people that come out of the Northwest.
Yeah. My 7-8-year-old self was disappointed when Andre Dawson won the MVP. in 1987 and not Dale Murphy. Dale Murphy hit 44, 100 and however many runs, but Dawson had 49. And so certain things you just remember when you're little because they stick so much, and you remember looking at the cards and like, oh, he could have had a third MVP. So, but yeah, I've always loved and always will love Dale Murphy and everything that he's done.
Amazing. All right, so tell us about you. So we already know where you're from. We know you're in Chicago there. So what's your day job?
I work in. I was debating like, do I answer it up front or do I tease it for the end?
You go and tease at the end.
Not.
You can tease at the end. That's fine.
It?
Yeah, we'll tease at the end. That's fine.
We'll sign off and you can try to guess.
Right, fair enough there. So,
I mean, it's nothing embarrassing or controversial. It's just probably not what I expected. So, or not what I expected in the sense of, if you think about artists and where they come from and what they do, and I'm clearly aspiring and amateur, and I'm okay with that, but a little bit different of a background professionally for me.
Fair enough. I know a guy that's an electrician out here that is doing Yankee artwork, and he's actually amazing at it. And it just it blows me away because, again, you wouldn't expect that from an electrician.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that's so interesting about it is, like, to be a professional artist, like, your background is art because that's your job. Like, it's a circular reference. But when you're doing stuff as an amateur or just flexing the creative muscles that you haven't since you were little, or whatever the story is, there's no bounds on what your day job is. You pick anything in the spectrum, whichever way, and that's okay. There's no barrier in that sense. So that's awesome that anybody and everybody can sit down and do some stuff.
I think with the pandemic, I think that's exactly what's happened. I think people need a creative outlet because you're not going out, you're not seeing a whole lot of stuff. You've watched everything on Netflix, and you need to figure something else to do. I mean, there is no Joe Exotic 2 coming out anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, like 1,000% on that comment. That's kind of where the seed started being planted for me. So, and that's not necessarily unique, but that's how it started. Yeah.
So did you see everyone else making your own? Because I've seen your name I guess been following this for like a year now. So we get a lot of people who saw everyone else doing card art and then got inspired by Project 2020. And so it's been a combination of those for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think for me, the order was reversed. Back in February or so, February of 2020. So almost a year and a half ago. I was like, I think I'm gonna start collecting baseball cards again. My son was almost 10. I was like, let's get him into it. And he wasn't that into it, which is cool, but I totally was again. And so, as kind of started in March and Project 2020 launches, and the first thing that really caught my eye was King Saladin's Ken Griffey Jr. And I was like, I have to have that. And then realizing things starting to come out, and then this broad spectrum of 20 people reimagining 20 different cards, and I fell in love with it. In that there's no rules on what you can do with it. Well, there are rules, but really the boundaries are pretty broad on what you can do. And one of the things for me, you start turning in your head is like, how would I do that? Like, how would I tell that story? The other day I said, not that I claim that I can do it better, but that's not my point. The point is that how would I do it? How would I tell my story? Do you hear a weed whacker in the background?
No, it's fine on my end, so don't worry about it.
All right, because I don't have headphones in. The guys weed whacking the lawn behind me, and probably should have done it inside. It's nice. And so,
hey, don't worry about that. I'm not picking up on any of the audio here, so as long as you can hear me, we're good.
All right, if you have to take a 20-second commercial break, I'll pop headphones in. We'll make it work.
Yeah, that's fine. That's no worries. If you want to. So.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah. Weed whacker. Excuse me. And so, loving the cards, loving Project 2020, what the artists are doing. And then as kind of the summer wrapped up, I was thinking like, I would love to start, like, it's kind of a personal experiment in the sense of, can I join social media, Twitter, Instagram? And is it a fun place? Is it a place that's not loud, screaming, yelling back and forth? Like, is it fun? And so I decided I was going to do it. I was like, well, I need a name. I can't just call myself Ryan. That's boring. No offense to other Ryans out there because I'm one of them. And then I came up with the name. I was like, let's do it. And then you start following around in circles, and the fall went on. I was like, I want to start doing stuff. And kind of scribbling around, and Christmas time came, and I was like, I want to do an iPad. I want to take the leap. Let's start. So that's how I got into the space and started to come into a lot of the same circles that people are in, and then started doing my own things. And it's been nothing short of a blast. I can't say enough positive things about my experiences and interacting with people, and coming up with digital art, really concept only, but then finally making some physical stuff. And a big accomplishment for me was officially selling a piece of art to somebody I didn't know. It's a big personal accomplishment, and I didn't necessarily know if that was a goal, but it's totally something I'm still excited about to this day, even though it's been a couple months. So that's kind of hard to condense that in like 20 seconds. So I hope.
No, it's fine. No, absolutely. Like I said, we got a half hour to fill, so don't worry about it. You can.
All right, perfect.
So
hopefully my neighbor's not going to weed whack for a half hour. I'm like,
that's all right. I when we put this out in podcast form, I'll call this the weed whacker. And
all right, there you go. There we go.
So speaking of Project 20, you said King Saladin. Was he the first artist? Obviously caught your attention. And which artist did you end up liking the most when the whole set was over?
That's a challenging question. I think all of the art had different things to enjoy about. Mm-hmm. And if there's some work that you don't enjoy as much, I think that's perfectly okay. It's not reasonable for professional artists or amateur artists, any type of artist, to expect everyone to enjoy their art. That kind of undermines the definition of art. So even if there's stuff I didn't like fully, there's still something to find and appreciate in what that was doing, what the person was doing. That being said, I really have enjoyed, really enjoyed following Blake Jameson. I love his accessibility and pulling the curtain back and sharing how he does it. That's wildly fascinating to me. I've really enjoyed following FDOT, and his process also, and how he's researched for a piece and has different stories to tell. I hope to think I'm not copying him, but maybe emulating or sincerest form of flattery, imitations of sincerest.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Kind of that way, because one of the original things I said is that how would I tell that story? Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of I picked up from him, and just a lot of different artists that I've enjoyed following, and I've enjoyed Project 2020 Project 70.
Yeah.
I love seeing the new artists, and I love how the library or roster to select from is so much deeper. It's not a perfect project. Again, that's okay. But there's just a broad listing of stuff to look at, and I really enjoyed Lauren Taylor. Her artwork is just mind blowing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I love her sharing stories, personal stories and stories of the art. I think that's amazing and inspiring. I've really enjoyed Alex Pardee, proving that there are no rules.
Absolutely.
And I've really enjoyed DJ Ski also. I'm not going to be afraid to admit I didn't know who he was beforehand. A lot of other people do.
Yeah.
But him taking album covers and mashing them into a baseball card, when we get to the Josh Gibson piece, it definitely had an influence. And so I just love seeing what he's doing, and all of the other new artists. The way Distorted looks at things is just so intriguing to me.
Yeah. She's an interesting person, that's for sure.
Yeah, I've watched some of the interviews with her, and it's completely fascinating to hear her talk and what she's thinking about. Again, there's just so much fun stuff out there. It's okay if you don't like all of it. That's not the point. Even if there's an artist you're not totally into, I always feel that if you look at something a second time, you're going to see something you didn't the first time. And for that, I'm in love with it. Even if it's not a perfect project, it doesn't have to be perfect.
I think you summed it up really well, because the same thing. I had my artist I liked from Project 20. I had my artist that I knew from Project 70 that I thought was interesting. Like Ski is a good point. Like I dismissed him. Like, he's gonna be all right. And then I realized that again, he was mashing album covers. And then he was putting up a playlist in there. And like, that's just awesome. So all my friends now are buying his cards because they're like, that's so cool that they're mashing the players to that. And it was really innovative, and it blew me away that somebody had thought at a different level about that.
Yeah. When I was lukewarm on the Babe Ruth, to be honest.
Yep.
But then when Satchel Paige and the Nas album cover came over, it was just like jaw drop. Like, telling my wife, hey, you got to come see this. And she's like, hey, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's funny that everyone's kind of like, oh, that's a baseball card. I'm like, yeah, it's a really cool baseball card.
Yeah, and one of the challenges that I know the artists have is the whole project's a marathon, not a sprint. Mm-hmm. And people are sharing comments after 3 pieces of work or something, and like I get like that's not easy, and you need to look at the whole work. And so, but as stuff's come out for more people and something you might not have liked the first couple rounds, there's a broader picture that's available that you're like, okay, that makes more sense. You're going to look at it differently after 20 than you first looked at it and tried to judge and put a label on it after a couple.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're really seeing that now with the print runs now, where people are collecting certain artists there, and I think people are gonna, kind of regret not picking up people as you now see you're in the card 5, 6, 7, and go, okay, actually that set looks really cool together. I wish I would have picked up those earlier cards.
Yeah, I think we're at like card 337.
So we're a third of the way through the project.
Marathon, not a sprint, man.
Exactly. So I have another podcast. I do Tea and Tops, and my buddy does all the modern cards because I'm a junk era guy. Like I said, Dale Murphy, Ryan Sandberg. I'm Alvin Davis. That was my guy back from the Mariners back in the day. And so the new card collecting is completely throws me off because I did parallels and refractors like that. I can't be bothered. Yeah, and so, but again, like yourself, Project 2020, Project 70, I can wrap my head around it. I can look at the cards, I can appreciate the art behind it, and kind of go, okay, I can stick with that. And you guys can go fight over about, the 101 cards and stuff like that.
Yeah, when I started collecting again, February 2020, like it was like, what is all this stuff? I don't get. Like, I'm like trying to like draw a grid and stuff in my head with like parallels and bases, and it's much more than 3-dimensional, and it's daunting to try to get your arms around joining back in.
Not only that, you have to be carrying the arms to go to Target to get your stuff.
Yeah, back then you could, and now you're just like going to Target because you need to pick something up and get out of there, not because you're curious.
Yeah, I know. It's funny because from the UK, everyone sees these stories about people going to Target and then getting held at gunpoint or robbed for their baseball cards and Pokemon. It blows it away. It does not set a good image of the card collecting community. And I was like, look, guys, it's not that way. Everyone has a local card shop they go to. It's completely different.
Yeah. Give me a quick second. You good?
Yeah.
What's up? I'm on TV right now. My son just came home from a very nice bike ride. He should come say hi. He was asking me to open the garage.
Come on in. Yeah, you can say hi.
Come on in when you.
Yeah, you can come
in the garage later and come say hi.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously you went with the modern cards. Did you go back and start collecting the junk era cards again? Did you still have your original cards? Very few I had. I think that there's still some to be found. Mm-hmm. But as kind of the retail and new stuff is drying up a little bit, or you start figuring it out and you're like, okay, I don't want to buy like 20 blaster boxes of Series 2. No offense to the Series 2 creators. I'm like, well, let's go back and like, let's fill this from the collection. You see people showing kind of like awesome looking cards from the 80s or 70s and like, hey, remember this one? And it's like, oh, that card's so much fun. And it grew into enjoying the mail day at like $1 a day or something. Yep. And then you're like, oh, I need to slow down. And then all of a sudden, a couple weeks later, there's like 10 in 2 days, 3 days. And your wife's like, here's your mail. And so I backfilled things based on what I was seeing other people were enjoying, because I enjoy other people enjoying it. Yeah.
And so that's kind of how it went. And then as retail dried up, it's really like a little bit of card shop stuff, and then buying stuff from other people and other artists. There's just some really, really amazing stuff and fun stuff, and I'm happy to support no matter what. And hopefully I'm able to buy and buy stuff too. And can't buy every day, wish I could. But there's definitely a lot of support that I like to provide. Although when I buy stuff, I use my real name, not my. So like, stuff will pop up every now and then. They'll be like, "Oh, I didn't know you buy that." I was like, "Yeah, but I just didn't feel like explaining it." So I guess there's no official record if I have or if I haven't. But
Right.
Even if I'm not purchasing, I love supporting in the, not to be over cliched, but the community. I love supporting other people using their brains and minds and being creative to either tell a story or cut something up, whatever it may be. I just love seeing people do that. It's hasn't stopped being fun yet. I don't know that it will.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I said Mr. Shake had never let anyone know his real name or had never actually seen until this card art competition started. So he was like, I had some editing for a while. Now everyone knows who I am.
Yeah, and if you know his real name, you're also never going to find it again.
That's true. Yeah.
Like, dude, you could have shared that name nonstop.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly. He was like that. It's funny enough. I actually knew somebody that had the exact same name and was in Rutgers the same time he was. And so I was just like,
okay.
Did you guys know each other? And he's like, God, no. I was like, of course you didn't.
It's also funny. I'm going to walk up to the front for a second because this guy's insane. I mean, the property line ain't that large. So sorry for shifting, but I think it might be a little bit easier for a couple minutes.
Oh, that's all right. You got 10 minutes left here, so we're all good.
Yeah. It's also interesting. You think other names, like I like to follow what Card Purchaser is doing, what he's talking about, and he's nameless. There's a lot of people that are nameless, and it's just kind of funny. And the Nationals coming up, and you're thinking, oh, I hope I get to meet him. And so, yeah. So there's just so much fun.
Exactly. So are you going to the National then?
I am.
Because again, it's not far for you at all.
It is not far from me at all.
Is this the first time you've been?
I went a couple years ago for a day, and I loved it. So much fun. But now I'm going, and I'm going to be meeting a bunch of people. So that's totally different experience. People I've been interacting with online, and then get to meet them in real life. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're talking about going next year and trying to do the 5-day experience of that, and see if we can handle 5 days of the National. So it might be too much.
So you're good on my audio though, right?
Yeah, good in the audio. So
no problem. So yeah, what we're going to talk a little bit more. Art, I know I have got to get to it.
All right. Well, okay. Well, I'll bring up your card now, and let's talk about your card. So
yeah.
All right, here we go. So we're pulling up your card here.
Yeah, it when I signed up and started researching a little, I was skeptical that I could pull off something unique with a limited library of images of Josh Gibson that are available. And so I started thinking about other things to do, and kind of started thinking album covers. So probably, I don't know how subconsciously or consciously DJ Ski was in my head, but I was kind of looking through libraries, a couple options from the 50s, and then I came across this Louis Armstrong album cover, and it was from Paris 1934. And the way the album was laid out, I was like, that would be great. And I'm thinking stories, and like I love the story about the legend of Yankee Stadium. That did he or did he not hit it out of Yankee Stadium? I think that's so interesting. That whether it happened or not, like it's still powerful that people say, well, it could happen because he was that good. And so I wanted to tell that story a little bit. And I know there's a Josh Gibson biography out there, and that kind of details a couple pieces of research I found to help validate and learn that we're talking Crawfords were playing the Stars that day, and Chicago American Giants were in the building, and Jack Marshall's the one that said, oh yeah, he hit it out of there. And so again, to me, it does kind of not relevant to me whether or not he did, because it tells a story that he's that that he was that powerful, that amazing to see that he could have done it. So that's what I wanted to kind of tell with it. See the if you have seen the original album cover, I did a painting, scanned the painting, pulled it in and made a little bit more of a card out of it. And then I introduced, I had painted a little bit differently. And here on the card is MVP trophy. That's digital overlay. I was struggling whether, taking a step back, I was struggling, do I do this painting and can I introduce this MVP trophy? Or do I just do something independent to introduce an MVP trophy? And so I ultimately got comfortable to get to the trophy inside the card of the painting, the card using the painting. And so I'm an amateur, I'm not a professional. I don't work, it's the first thing I painted in 20 years. I wanted to expand my comfort zone because the roster of artists is so talented that I was like, let's do something different. I mean, I've only been doing it 4 months. Let's keep chat. Like, so
You want to challenge yourself.
yeah, I mean, totally just thinking, well, there's no rules on what I can and can't do. And so I decided to do it, and I'm happy with it. And the responses I've gotten are really good. And people have enjoyed learning a little bit more about the story and kind of what I'm trying to tell with it. And so I'm kind of on cloud nine that I made something that people enjoyed.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, you're telling the story there. It's the same thing that Sean Gibson likes to say. It's like, they estimate Josh Gibson hit around 800 home runs. So Josh Gibson, so Sean likes to say, well, he hit 799 then. That's how many home runs he hits. So, why not?
Seriously.
Why shortchange yourself? Yep, 799 is what he hit. Let's go with that. Cool. And you've actually got Josh Gibson on the MVP as well as like the figure on top.
I do. That's a big thing I wanted to do, thinking if there are any major card manufacturers out in the world that might be in the need for a new MVP trophy, what would it look like? And so that's what I wanted to introduce there. And I'm sorry, man. That's what I wanted to introduce there. And it's kind of the basis for what it's kind of companion project that I've got working on launching for next week.
All right. You want to tell us about that?
I do. I got to check our time. Make sure
5 minutes.
All right. 5 minutes. Have you seen some of the physical products that I've worked on?
Yes, I have.
Okay. So I've got an original baseball card, and then I've got an overlay to produce what looks to be the it's kind of, I mean, there's clearly Project 70 inspired, but I can't print my own athletes and top stuff. And so if I, just for the viewers, let me pull out a couple here. So there's Cam. Okay. So here's Dion.
Yep. Nice.
It's a Dion baseball card, but with artwork overlaid.
Yep.
And so I can take it off and be like, it's just a Dion card. It's not touched, untouched. Did Bo Jackson.
Yeah, that's great.
It's the original Bo Jackson card. It's not touched. And tells stories about Nike commercial, over the top, run the wall, Heisman Trophy, shoulder pads. And that was the first thing I did. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but let's do something. So that was fun. Still is fun. And so what I've got cooking, what I've done, I've gotten approval for, is I've collected, I have about 30 or so Topps baseball cards of MVPs the years after they won the MVP.
Right.
And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the original card, and I'm producing that sticker. I'm producing the MVP trophy. And so then you're going to have MVP baseball cards of those players as if it was a Josh Gibson MVP trophy that was on the original baseball card.
Oh, amazing. I like it.
So I have a couple digital pieces. If you just want to see if I'm able to show a couple.
Yeah. I said we got a few minutes. We can try to get in there, and Craig's not on yet. So, where can I find your digital pieces?
Oh, can you share to me real quick?
Yeah, hold on. Like I said, it should be able to share the screen.
Sorry for taking your microphone.
No, that's all right. Absolutely, go. Like I said, like this is your chance to shine, man. Like I said, I'm just the guy with the microphone.
I apologize in real person.
No, it's all good. Like I said, like this is your time to shine. For a lot of people, it's their first time they've had an interview or the second time there. So, like I said, like I do this every week. This is the I'm more than happy to give the microphone and let you take over there.
All right, is the screen broad? Am I good?
Yeah, I've got you got a fish there right now. We'll see what happens. It says it's not broadcast. Is that showing broadcast? No, that's you.
Anything yet? Gosh darn it.
No, we're not getting anything. But we can do it after the show. Like I said, you can keep trying here, and we can keep chatting away. So you keep trying this, and it pulls up. It pulls it up. We got some time. Craig's not showed up yet, but why don't you give everyone a shout out with your social medias while we try to pull it up?
Yeah. So it's at 40O versions, which stands for 40-year-old versions. At 40O versions, and that is it's the same for both. It's the same for both Instagram and Twitter. And so, yeah, I share things, sharing digital works and sharing things I get in the mail from other people. And when I have physical product, I like to share and interest someone to purchase, or at worst, just interest them. There we go. There's your idea. There's your concept.
Oh, amazing.
So Freddie Freeman's going to be up first. I have authorization for 20. It's challenging to pick 20 MVPs. Mm-hmm. Here's Mike Trout. Mike Trout's a popular baseball player in the Major League Baseball League. We have Dave Parker. Dave Parker is going to be on the list. Cobra. And so, and then 17 others that I've got collected and have kind of shared with Tad and walked through a little bit that he's like, okay, you're good. You're good with it. And so a couple other things I want to tinker. I know Project 70 doesn't have any Colorado Rockies yet, so I'm working to include a Colorado Rockies MVP award winner.
Oh, amazing.
So, but there's going to be a gamut of 70, 80s, 90s, zeros. I don't know if I'm able to procure and secure any 1960s yet. And it's just going to be limited to 20. And if it's so successful and people love it so much and it raises money, which it's going to be 50% of proceeds to Josh Gibson Foundation. If people love it so much, then we'll see if we can do it again. But I'm just kicking off with 20. It's going to be next week. Next week on Twitter. We're going to do. I'm intending to do auctions, kind of cascading throughout the week. And so, if there's a certain player you're interested in, you should keep your eyes open. And this is not just you personally. If there's a certain player they're interested in, keep their eyes open, and hopefully it's a way to combine the existing baseball players in the league with hopefully the Josh Gibson MVP trophy, the legitimate MVP award. And so it's going to be fun. I was happy to think of it. I was able to describe it well enough with Tad. And I apologize to Tad for the quantity of emails, but I appreciate his patience, and really I think what he and Heavy J and Mr. Shake and working with Sean Gibson, it's been amazing. I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it. I've been entertained, and I love being part of something that's bigger than just myself, and just contributing to this goal of which hopefully we get to learn soon, for the Baseball Writers Association to rename the trophy the Josh Gibson MVP Award.
Absolutely. All right, Ryan, we're going to let you go here, but I got one last question before you let you go. All right. So Dale Murphy doesn't have a Project 70 card. Which artist do you want to do your Dale Murphy card?
Oh,
or two. Pick two. Like I said, because if you want to narrow it down, I said you can go ahead and I'll let you pick two if you want to pick two.
That's You should have told me beforehand that was the question.
That's all right.
But by default, I want to go F. because he finds a way to pull in 3-4 different stories. Dale Murphy's got a lot of stories. He was a catcher and he finished in Colorado, and there was a lot of stuff that happened in between with them. So he's one, and I'm not afraid to go. I'm not afraid to go a little bit different. And I wouldn't mind if it's distorted, DJ
Right.
Ski. But if anyone does it, introduces him, tells a good story, because the history of baseball, 1/3 of the history of baseball should not exclude Dale Murphy, right? Dale Murphy is very important to the history of baseball, especially in the 80s, early 90s. And so hopefully that happens, and we'll see. If not, I may or may not contribute to the space and see if I can do some Dale Murphy myself. Have an idea, but it's only a seed.
All right. Right. Thanks so much for coming on the show. We'll have you back on another time. We'll give you a full hour, and we'll definitely go and chat cards again.
Perfect. Love it. Thank you very much. Thanks for the show. Thanks for supporting the campaign, and thank you for being patient with me walking around the yard. That the weed whacker guy is still weed whackering. So
All right.
next round will be better, but thank you nonetheless.
No problem, man. Have a good afternoon. Good evening.
See ya.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right. That's Ryan from the 40-year-old version of 10-year-old me. And thanks for having me on. I mean, next up, we've got Craig. Craig, how you doing today?
Hello, good sir. How are you? How are you doing?
I'm good. This is the back to back to back. So this is the last interview of the night for me, but we're doing
Listen,
all right.
I have the coffee ready for you over here. I'm drinking it. I don't know how I get it to you, but there you go.
I was interested. I was at a barbecue earlier, and they're like, "Do you want any beers?" Like, no, I will fall asleep if I have a beer. It's not going to happen today.
You're in Scotland now.
Yes, I'm in Edinburgh.
Okay, and where's the Scotch?
I
would think that you'd be. Oh yeah.
If you want, I'll get a Scotch.
Listen, if this is your last one of the day, I mean, I'm on coffee right now, but by all means, go get yourself something.
If you got time,
you're like, that's not a bad idea. Yeah. Listen, I'm just a little disappointed I'm not hearing a Scottish accent. I was all ready to start in the whole thing, but now I got nothing here.
18 years here, it's hard to pick up a Scottish accent, especially when you only hang out with a lot of expats. But usually my co-host John, he's in Glasgow, so he's got he's got a fairly normal Scottish accent there. But we started this, and I said, look, I can't start a show called Ball Caps and Bagpipes. We talk about Scottish baseball, and I can't be the American guy. I said, I need a Scottish guy to help me out with this.
Absolutely.
So, all right. I'll go get a whiskey. You give me 5 minutes. Give me 2 minutes. I'll go get myself a whiskey, and
there you go.
All right.
All right.
2 minutes here.
Rock and roll.
Nothing like a live show where you can sit there.
Hey man, listen. If you need to take a break to go get some whiskey, you do that. He just went to get a whiskey in the middle of a live show. Card fell off the wall. Whoops. Okay. Nobody tell him where I went. When he comes back, we'll surprise him. Hear him. Here he comes. Maybe. Maybe not.
Okay. All right, and I'm back. All right. Sorry, it's a wee break for everyone who's watching the show live. I'm back.
There it is.
There we go. I've got a bottle.
I wanted to do my slide-in entrance. There you go. Very nice.
That was pretty sweet. So yeah,
there you go.
We might as well talk about this. So this is from the Scotch Malt Whiskey Society here. So they only sell cast strength stuff here. and this one's called Smoky Ballerina.
Well, there you go.
So are you much
Smoky,
of a ballerina?
Smoky Nut Petey. Yeah, well, there you go. That's rock and roll right there. That sounds fantastic.
So I believe it's a. Do you drink much whiskey?
I'm not a big drinker at all, but when I do jump in on the whiskey, Yamazaki out of Japan is terrific, and the Middleton very rare out of Ireland. Your neighbor over there.
Cork.
That's outstanding.
Yeah. Middleton's out of Cork. I know. I met a girl many years ago who dad works at the distillery. Not that there's much to do in
really?
Cork, but yes. So
well, there you go.
I'm not much of a
That's
drinker
terrific.
as well. So so this will be enough for the night and absolutely pass out when we're done here.
I might be. I'm normally from New York, but I'm calling in from Guatemala, actually.
Right.
So there you go. Yeah. It's a little cloudy today. Otherwise, I'd be able to show you some volcanoes in the background. But here the drink is Micheladas. So it's like a Bloody Mary. Yeah, it's a Bloody Mary, but with beer instead of vodka. So you got to wrap your head around that and kind of be like, wait, what? And then after you have one or two, you go, that's actually not that half bad. And then all of a sudden you have 10 of them over the course of ideally not one night, and now it's in your system and you love it, and it's wonderful. Anyway, so what are we talking about today?
Does not Budweiser do a version of this? Because whenever I go home, there's all these weird and wonderful beers that I've never heard of.
So in New York, I have not been able to find one, although I do have a friend that leaves the city. I think they moved in full. I don't know, but I know during the pandemic, or maybe a little before, they left the city and they went down to they have a house on the Jersey Shore, and I think it's Coors maybe that makes one, but it's like it's in the can, so like you don't have to make it yourself. The whole thing is all pre-mixed and everything. I haven't tried it. They do make bottled ones down here in Guatemala, and it's like going to McDonald's. It does the job, but it's not like having the gourmet burger. It's just this is like, I can have it. It's fine. And when it also saves you from having to squeeze a lot of the limes and then all of a sudden having the sun hit the skin with the lime on it and then you get a burn. It's not fun. So it saves you from all that kind of stuff. But anyway, solid enough. There it is. All right. So
it's funny because we get all this stuff out there, and we see all the adverts of this stuff there. So we were giving Josh Trout a hard time about his orange creamsicle Coors Light hard seltzer.
It's not going to work. No. Josh is a hell of a card designer, but I'll tell you, that's probably not the drink that I'm going to have.
No, it wasn't my choice.
Sorry.
In his defense, he said his wife gets these freebies to try. So, is in the
Okay.
fridge. All
there
right.
you go. There you go.
That's his story. He's sticking to it.
Well, he should set up a YouTube channel where he tries them, and if he drinks them, then great. And the other ones, he just goes spits them all out. Get a lot of people watching it. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, what are we talking about today? Are we talking about alcohol?
We're going to talk about you. So, what are you doing in Guatemala?
Okay. So my wife is from here, and we met, I want to say about 15 years ago, up in New York, and we've been together ever since, which makes a lot of sense, actually. And then we live in Manhattan, downtown, and we have our kids in school. We've got an 8-year-old, 6-year-old, and a 4-year-old. And when the pandemic hit, we usually come down here for the holidays, and we usually come down here for the summer, navigating the school year. And then we didn't come here last summer. We stayed up in New York and roughed it. And then come the holidays, we said we got to go. We're just going to go to Guatemala for the holidays, and we'll brave it and see what happens. It sounds like people are getting closer to a vaccine, and we'll go from there. So we got here, and then we said, why are we going back? And it was one of those like, why would we go back? Because they could close school in 2 minutes because of 2 or 3 cases that happened, and all of a sudden school's closed. Everybody's got to stay in, and it's cold because it's the winter, so there's nothing to do. You can't go to restaurants because you're not going to sit outside and freeze. Friends aren't seeing each other, and a lot of the friends have moved, and gone their own way also. So we said, let's stay in Guatemala. We've got tons of family here, tons of friends, and you can eat outside because, on a cold day, it's like high 60s, low 70s, so we're good. We have our apartment here, and we said, let's just do this. So they remote schooled up to New York from Guatemala, and they don't do daylight savings time here. So it wasn't bad when it was Central Time. You had like a 1 hour time difference. So school starts at 8:45. So it started at 7:45 here. But then when the time changed, it became a 2 hour time difference. So they were doing it at 6:45 a.m. which was really fun. Let me tell you. Woohoo! Yeah, that's interesting. Well, the 4-year-old wakes up at whatever time he wakes up. So he's in our room anytime between 4:30 and 5:30. Poppy, can we watch TV? No, I'm sleeping. Okay, Poppy, can we play? Okay, you can go play. I'm not going to play right now. I'm going to sleep until, there's light outside, and things like that. And, the girls, they wake up and they do their thing. And then, we wound up we made it through the year and everything was fine. So we're here through the summer, and then we head back up north to New York when the school year starts. I go back and forth every week for business. I'm sorry, every month for business for like a week or so. But yeah, no, we're here. I'm settled, and I'm talking to you from my office in Guatemala, actually. So there you go.
And I guess you have to go back every month to make sure no one's squatting in your apartment, and you have to worry about kicking
No.
them
We
out.
live in a doorman building. There's nobody squatting in the apartment. But no, I have to go to handle just stuff for business. It's my company, so I'm. We already sent everybody home last March and said don't come in until this pandemic thing's done. So nobody's really in, and that's a good little drop for something we'll talk about later. But so nobody's really in the office now, so I have to go there just to handle a bunch of the standard kind of stuff, make sure that everything's okay with the office, make sure everything's okay with the apartment, then all the general upkeep that you got to do business wise that you can't do remote. So anyway, so that was that. But funny thing was, since no one was at the office, and kind of jumping ahead in the story, I guess.
That's all right, man. It's free form. We can go any way we want.
There you go. But since nobody was in the office, I kind of caught this art bug a few years ago, but it was all digital for a while. And then I said, nobody's in the office. I can kind of convert that main conference room to an art studio. And I did. So I had a field day with that, and that was a lot of fun. But anyway, so when we talked before, we had said, how did we get here? Like, what do you do for a living? And, how did you get into the creative world? Yeah. So what's the day job? So the day job is online advertising operations, which has a history to it. But in mid-90s, I'm in my mid-40s now. So mid-90s, I was interning over the summer before I graduated from BU, Boston University. And I split the week. Half the week was at Marvel Comics drawing in the art department.
Wow.
I'm sorry, in the ad department. And the other half the week was working at Rolling Stone, or Wenner Media, but Rolling Stone mainly, and writing the business plan with my team, with the team that I worked with, for their AOL site, because that's what people were doing in the mid-90s. They were trying to figure out what to do with the online world. So I really wanted to go the creative route. And about 5 minutes after I got to Marvel, I very quickly realized that just because your mom says you're a good artist doesn't mean that you're that good. So I was like, I know I'm decent, but I'm about as good as what that guy, the talent that guy had in like his toenail clipping that he clipped off 8 months ago and forgot about. Like these people are they bang it out and they're incredible. So many good artists. And I said, okay, well, the best ones make this, the decent ones make this. It's going to take a lot of work to get there. I'm going to school for business and management and marketing. So I said, let's focus on that and do the art and see if I can work that into the career somehow, or work that just into fun or whatever it is. Well, I wound up getting a job in a new media division of a magazine firm after college, which new media was the online division now, but nobody knew what to call it. So they called it the new media division. And there were 30 or so magazines that had 30 or so corresponding AOL sites. And then one day they said, can you put some ads on these pages? I'm like, how? Like, what are you talking about? How do we do that? They're like, well, you got to learn how to code in AOL's Rain Man programming language. I said, okay. So we figured that out. I started putting ads up, and that was the beginning of online advertising. Like in the mid-90s, that's when companies were first starting to try and figure that out. So what I do is the technical work behind it, not the selling of the ad, not the designing of the ad, but it was more figuring out how to make sure that the ad shows up in the right spot and delivers to the right audience and the correct amount of times and all that. So I said, okay, this is interesting, but it became really technical really fast because the industry went from like going 0 miles an hour to 80 mazillion miles an hour in the speed of like a couple of years. So because of all that innovation, after leaving that company, going to another one, and when that company didn't wind up working out because the bubble burst in the stock market and it ran out of funding, I stayed on to help take them through bankruptcy, but then did like a sales thing on the side, and then said, you know, this ad operations thing isn't getting any easier. It's only getting more complicated. Maybe there's a business here. So I started this business in 03, and fast forward, we're in year 18. We have our 18th birthday in October. We've got about 50 people on board and 4 offices across the US, and we provide online advertising operations services for many publishers. And if anyone would like to know more about that, because we don't have to talk about it now, you can go to adops.com. Yeah, there you go. Well, no, so that's actually really funny. So yeah, adops.com, adops.com. So it's really funny because I was talking with Tad, and I was telling him that, you know, I started on Instagram a little while ago, a couple of years back, but it was more to follow comic artists because I really started getting back into the comic world. And I started drawing again because I went, oh, I could do this. I love this and it's great. And by the way, my editor, which doesn't exist, isn't going to kick my butt if it doesn't look perfect. So I said, okay, this is great. So I started doing that, and I started getting followers. I said, this is interesting. And then I said, wait a minute. So I understand advertising. I understand online advertising. What is this Instagram advertising? So I started doing like I did a Batman cover to a comic or something, Batman, a Spider-Man, Deadpool, something along those lines. I don't remember which one it was. But I did that, and I spent, you know, $10 in marketing or just something, just to like toe in the water to figure out what it is. And all of a sudden I had like 200 more followers in like 3 minutes and in 3 days, whatever it was. It was a couple. It was literally like no time. That's the point. And I went, this is interesting. And now, you know, I've got a decent following. I'm happy about that. But I was talking with Tad at the beginning, and I said, so we got to talk about this because you guys should have a lot more traction on this. Not selling my company services, which it does something completely different than what they would need. We don't do media buying services like what this is. But I said, you got to figure out Instagram advertising and Twitter advertising. Said, well, we got a Twitter profile. We do well with that. We don't have as much of a following on Instagram. I said, Instagram is art. Let's go. I can help. We can talk about this. So he and I kind of have like a side chat going about this, but it's not it's not like at the forefront of everything right now. You're in the middle of a major card campaign, and there's a lot going on there. And we kind of said, okay, so let's we'll get to that eventually, I guess. But there's definitely more to this. There's a long road for what they have planned regarding Josh and other players from the Negro Leagues, and there's just tons that there's a very long roadmap. So when it comes to marketing, one, Tad knows the stuff backwards and forwards anyway, but two, they know that, you know, I'm there to help if they need it. So with that, anyway, so yeah, it was definitely an interesting advertising connection, because when he asked what I did and I told him, he's like, wait, what? And I said, huh? What do you mean what? And then we started chatting, and I said, okay, we need to get on the phone and not just do this over, you know, Instagram direct messages. Let's talk. Yes. And it was a great conversation. So it's a great guy.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know what you mean there. It's used to that because I did the .com thing. That's how I ended up in Scotland. So I used to work for real networks back in the day.
Oh my goodness gracious. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I tell this story to everyone, the same thing. So my first job was working with marketing there. It was the top 1,000 websites that needed the Real Player 5 button. So the top 1,000 websites that were streaming anything in Real 5 was sports and porn. So my job was looking at sports and porn all day long.
That's crazy.
And then they got the contract with MLB. And so with the bubble had burst, but I was still on contract, and they needed someone that was a baseball fan. And so my job was to show up at 3 o'clock every afternoon and listen to baseball games to make sure the streams were working. That's
amazing that your job was to just sit and enjoy baseball. That's pretty cool.
For 8 hours. Yes. So yeah, the bubble times was good times. It was not so good out there.
It's really interesting. So when the bubble burst, it's a good baseball segue. I mean, that whiskey has a nice shade to it, by the way. It's not too dark, not too light. It looks pretty solid there. I don't know if it's the lighting, but it looks darn good. So when the bubble burst, the company that I was at shut down. They ran out of their funding and everything. So, but I stayed on to take them through bankruptcy. I started a sales thing on the side, and I started this, idea, figuring it out. But I was a huge baseball fan growing up. My card collecting years was like 82 to 89. I kind of stopped after the Griffey rookie, and then a little into basketball, and then college happened in '92. So that was that. But when I was shutting this company down, I hadn't really been into baseball for a long time. After, college happened. After college happened, the first couple of years after college, you're pretty much like you're running around with your head on fire. You're working your butt off, and you're going out and you're having fun with your friends and meeting people, and it was terrific. But when this company was shutting down, it was just after the Subway Series, so I had started getting back into it anyway. And it was me and a handful of people down from like 250 that were at the company. And I said, I need to, there's a lot that I have to do, but I also want to pass the time. So I got back into fantasy baseball. I started listening to Major League Baseball radio when that first started up. And I started chatting with the guys during the radio show and sending in questions. That was fun, but I really started enjoying. And that happens to be the year 2001 when Ichiro and Pujols started. So that was like, okay, these two Titans are now coming in, and it became this amazing thing. And I just thoroughly enjoyed. And I started going to Yankee games again and Met games, and it's just wonderful. And then I did this Major League Baseball, what was it? It was like staff and fan league. There was like a live draft where it's a draft and hold league. So we all got together in a bar. We did this whole draft and hold league. It was terrific. I had a lot of fun with that. And then the guys that I met there are the guys that write like the like Roto World, not Roto World, but Roto Man, and like all the different like magazines that are made for fantasy baseball. There were all the writers in there. And then there was a stat guy from the Cardinals, a couple people from Major League Baseball radio. Like it was just amazing to be part of that. And they invited me, because I did well in the contest. They invited me to Tout Wars, which is
you're in Tout Wars.
So I was in Tout Wars. So I did the mixed league Tout Wars league for 3 or 4 years. Usually finished in 3rd, 4th, 5th, something 6th, something like that. I think it was usually 3rd and 4th. But I had never done I'd never done an auction draft, and I'd never done an auction draft in a room with an auctioneer, an auctioneer guy. Like literally, it's like Jose Reyes, $2, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, and I'm going, this is like insane to me. This is amazing. This is so cool. And I'm looking around the room and I'm going, that's the writer for this, and that's the guy that works at this one. Yeah, there you go.
I got one. Yeah, we got one for our league.
It was unbelievable. I'm just watching this, and I'm sitting in a room with these people that know everything. They're the writers. They're the guys that work at these newspapers or work for these teams. And I'm going to get crushed. And I did decently, and that was fun. Matt Berry was in there. Everybody knows
Matt Berry was great. So Matt Berry's stories were always amazing.
Yeah, amazing, wonderful. And he was in the Avengers. Did you know that?
I did not know he was in the Avengers.
He was in Avengers Endgame.
Right.
When Loki escapes.
Right.
And okay, so right when Loki escapes, you look at the officers standing there,
right,
that are like trying to they're talking to Tony Stark. And just before Tony Stark goes into cardiac arrest, you see Matt Berry standing right there. And they did the Avengers team, the cast did like this whole fantasy. And Berry was part of it, and a couple other people were part of it. So anyway, I saw it on Instagram, and then I was like, wait a minute, he was in the movie? And then I watched it, I'm like, that's Matt Berry, right?
It's Matt Berry, yeah.
So, holy crap, that was unbelievable. So it was a lot of fun.
He's still writing. I haven't seen. You know what? I don't have time for fantasy anymore, which kills me, because I used to the same thing. 2001 Yahoo Fantasy, and I was all in because being a Seattle guy, I picked up Ichiro, and Ichiro was my guy and it was no one wanted him until like the 15th round. No one knew how it was going to be.
Crazy. Unbelievable. Nobody knew how he was going to be. He was only one of the best hitters of all time. Yeah. But nobody knew what he was going to be, because the internet wasn't like it is right now. It was a lot harder to get that kind of information back then.
Absolutely.
I went to see him play at Yankee Stadium that year. I still have pictures from the game, but I had great seats. I was low down, and I watched him make a line drive throw from right field to third base. And it was like, did he figure out how to calculate the wind speed or something? Like, how do you throw a line drive that floats 6 to 7 feet above the ground straight from the outfield over to third base? I'd never seen anything like that. And it was unbelievable. So that, a hitter, amazing. fastest guy you've ever seen get out of the box, amazing. But the fielding is insane. So they don't talk about that enough about him. But anyway, so pandemic hits. I send everybody home. I say, I got to start getting back into art. I got to start doing more with this. My wife usually falls asleep a little before I do. So, you know, when there's free time, which there is very little of in my world, I open the iPad then. So I got Procreate and I got an Apple Pencil and I started drawing. I was doing comic art. And then I said, maybe I should start with something else. And I started doing other kinds of design and art and things like that. Pandemic hits. My kids love Pokemon. So I said, okay, I got a second grader and a first grader and a preschooler. They all love Pokemon. Let me make a Pokemon coloring / reading / you know, sketching kind of book.
Yep.
So I did that. It's not authorized, so I can't sell it anywhere. But
limited edition,
I
one of one
right
prints. You're all right. You can do one of ones.
One of one print maybe, but you know, it's a book that I had bound. I did the whole thing. I ordered 50 of them, and now my kids and my friends' kids have them. But
are you still playing Pokemon Go? That's the real question.
Okay, so Pokemon cards I never paid any attention to. I was in college and that was that, or it's after college. Yeah, well, it was like late 90s, right? So I graduated.
It was late 90s.
6. Yeah, so I never got into it. But when the kids started watching the show, I said, okay, and I don't know, do you have kids?
Yeah, I've got a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old.
Okay, so you know that sometimes you need to figure out how to distract them and change, you know, subject or do something just to like snap them out of something. So the 8, the 6, and the 4, who, you know, year and a half ago or younger, obviously, they were into Pokemon, and I said, all right, maybe I'll get this Pokemon Go game. And like, if I need to, I could whip out the phone and be like, hey guys, and then like, oh wow, we could catch a Pokemon. And all of a sudden, mood changes. So I learned more about Pokemon that way. But I did this book and I was able to draw that out and do the whole thing. It was pretty nice. It's all over my Instagram if you want to go see it. And it was fun. So I then said, what else can I do? And I hadn't been in sports cards in a long time, but a buddy of mine that lives in my building sold a Michael Jordan PSA 10 card last year.
Right.
And he was all super happy about it. Like, you know, I probably showed it to me in February or March, like just when the pandemic was starting. So he showed it to me then. He's like, he's a finance guy, he's done very well. And he's like, I said, what'd you pay for something like that? He goes, about 20. I'm like, okay, you paid 20 grand for Michael Jordan. He goes, it's Michael Jordan. It's my trophy. I've wanted it since I was a kid. I said, okay. And it's PSA 10. There's only so many of them. It's like, okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, a week later, he's like, I'm selling it. I'm like, what are you talking about? You told me this is like your trophy from like making it. He's like, no. Prices are going crazy. Pandemic's, you know, hitting, and people are moving money out of stocks, which the market right then and there went, you know, it tanked. Yeah. So now it's recovered, but everybody, you know, that tanked, people freaked out. And he said, all right, so I'm going to sell this thing. And he, you know, quadrupled his money or more, almost 5 times, you know, and he owned the card for like a year and a half. And I'm like, okay, that's crazy. Let me start looking at sports cards again. And I went and I was like, oh, I wonder what the Topps website looks like. Oh, what is this thing that Topps is doing with painted cards? What the hell is this? Mm-hmm. So I fell into Topps 2020, and I immediately, Blake, F. Sophia, Saladin, amazing. Saladin's incredible. He uses so many different styles, you know, and it's outstanding. Greg Siff, outstanding, loved it. And all the stuff that these guys are doing, I'm leaving them all out because I'm live on camera, and I feel like I'm, you know, the Academy Awards, and you're like, okay, I know I'm forgetting some people, I'm forgetting everybody, but all of them, every single one of them, I own cards from all of them, and they're outstanding and wonderful and terrific. But I'll tell you, I started looking into stuff, and I said, I want to get into designing cards because it's another thing I can play with and have a good time with on the iPad while she falls asleep. And I got another hour or two because I need to turn my brain off after business. Otherwise, you're going to be thinking about your work until 3 o'clock in the morning, and then the little guy comes in at 4:30. So that's not going to work out.
No, that
so I
works,
got to do
absolutely.
something to turn off the brain. So I started the drawing, and then all of a sudden this. And then I said, but I really like this graffiti style that a lot of these guys are using. And my office company headquarters is in Soho in New York. And during the pandemic, and I were down here for a lot of it, and rarely were going to the office back then. That was like the heart of it. That was the eye of the storm, or the major part of the storm. And you didn't want to be anywhere near it. And also you had Black Lives Matter, and then there were protests and and all sorts of other marches and whatnot in Manhattan, and all the stores were boarded up. So not only was nobody around, but all the stores were boarded up, and it looked kind of freaky. Like you were just walking around Soho like, okay, this is nuts. So I wasn't around that much back then, but when I did go, what I started seeing was amazing. And that is that all, in this time of horror where you've got, things like BLM going on, police brutality is terrible, all these horrible things that are happening, combined with you're in the middle of a pandemic, combined with everybody's in high emotion and freaking out anyway. I walked around Soho. I was just going to go into my office, but I started seeing art on these boards on all of the walls, all the windows that are boarded up. And I said, I'm not going to the office. I'm going to walk around a little bit and double mask and put some gloves on and whatever, and just like check out the world. And oh my God, it was unbelievable. There was so much street art, and I forgot because they had cleaned up the city so much. And it was like, look at all of this amazing stuff. Amazing. And it wasn't just like random graffiti words. It was like people sat there and they were commissioned by, certain areas of Soho to like paint on walls and on these boards. Unbelievable work. So I said, I got to do this. So I didn't do any of the actual stuff in Soho, but my office has windows that face the street on both, the back side of the office building and the front side of the office building. So I have now 3x3 paintings and windows, so everybody can look. And we overlook the Nike. It's like the Nike boutique. It's not the Nike store, but it's like their boutique custom area downtown.
Right.
And they usually have lines when they have sneaker releases.
I can imagine this. So.
Yeah, it's nuts. And then I'm standing there like recently, within the past couple of months, I'm in the office. I'm there a week a month. I'm doing my thing, and I'm looking out the window, and there's sneaker releases, and all of a sudden, like there's people like looking up and they're online, and they're pointing at my office windows with all the paintings in them, and I'm like, there we go. That's what it's all about. So it's terrific. So I really got into that. A lot of that art was motivated by what was going on. I came up with the whole, Love Wins series. Everybody just needs to be better with each other. This is ridiculous. We're all human beings. We're all a human race. This is, there's no difference in race. We're the human race. Thank you very kindly. Let's just, be like that together. Thank you very much. I'm from New York. I'm a Jewish mutt, where if you go back into my history, it's all of Europe basically is my background, but I live in New York. My wife is Catholic with a Middle Eastern background and from Guatemala.
From Guatemala,
yeah. So we have like United Nations babies, essentially. We like joke around. So like, again, it's all about like, we're all the same thing. Thank you very much. Skin, blood, bones, muscle, and tissue. And I don't care what you look like on the outside, we're all the same. So that's which made me even more excited about this Josh Gibson card design contest. So I had started designing cards. Again, we'll talk about Instagram afterwards, but on my Instagram, I've done, I posted a Babe Ruth.
I can pull up your Instagram. We can share.
Well, there you go. If you want, sure. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff on there. You're going to have to scroll. But
that's right. You just keep talking and we'll be fine. I'll scroll.
So there's a 1982 Babe Ruth Topps card. As I said, I was a big collector in the 80s. That's not me. That's the other guy. Oh, I don't know. Am I on yours? Just see lesson.
Just trying to see if I can find it real quick. Nope, that's Anika.
Nope.
It's posted twice. That's Sergio.
Maybe I didn't make the cut.
Hold on.
No.
You made the cut.
All right.
Because did he not? Because I've got your promo card here.
No. That's not me.
That's not. No, that's not you. Nope. Sorry.
Not me.
It's behind. It's the next one here. There we go.
Well, there you go.
Craig was added. So you made
There
the
you
promo.
go. Add it for tomorrow.
There we
it
go.
is. There's me. There you go.
That's you.
That's
and
me.
then
And just CLESHEN. Yep, that's my card. That's the Gibson card that I did.
right. So you keep talking, and I'll look for your Instagram. 2 seconds.
Sure. It's just CLESHEN. So anyway, so I started designing cards. I did a Babe Ruth card. I did a Michael Jordan card. I did a LeBron James, Derek Jeter, Jackie Robinson, and some other ones. I don't know if they're all out there. Oh, yeah, there we are.
Go.
There we go. Oh, there's my 6-year-old.
There you go. We'll give you props to the 6-year-old then.
There you go. Props to the 6-year-old. There's Camila, rocking and rolling.
Amazing.
All right. Yep. So yeah, you're gonna have to scroll way down because I put up a lot of stuff since.
Well, there's your
and
Pokemon.
There's some Pokemon stuff, absolutely. But yeah, so I started in with that, and then when I came across, I don't even know how I found this, but I came across the Josh Gibson contest, and I pinged him and I said, "Are you guys looking for more people to enter?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I showed them what I worked on. They said, "Please, could you join?" I said, "Okay, there it is." So that's the Jackie Robinson card done as a 1983 Topps card. Was a big fan back then. I would say the heart of my collecting years was probably 83 to 87. 82, I was first getting into it. 88 and 89, I enjoyed it. There's the Babe Ruth cards, a couple of different variations below. That's a Derek Jeter I did.
Yeah, I'll go Babe Ruth, I'll go Jeter. So
there you go. So that's the graffiti splash refractor / chrome version. And if you go to the next one, I think it's the standard version. And yeah, that away. Exactly. So that's the standard version. So we did that. Then you got some other Jeters afterwards.
Jeter, your guy.
So he was, when I got back into sports, or when I got back into baseball, he was pretty much the guy. It was Jeter and that was Jeter and Mariano and
Jorge and Andy.
Jorge.
Yeah, of course. It was the core four.
These were the guys. Yeah. And then, when Clemens came over, I went to the 2001, I went to the game before 9/11.
Right.
I had tickets to the game on the 12th. That got canceled. But then they made the playoffs and they played the A's in the first round, division series. And it was the first game that I had been to. The playoffs had just started. I think that was the first game back to baseball. I don't remember exactly how it all worked back then. But I was sitting in the front row in the upper deck on the first base side, right around the first base mark. And the stadium was quiet, but like the old Yankee Stadium, it got a little intense in the upper deck. All of a sudden that whole deck started shaking. So we were all freaked out. It was just after 9/11, and the door opens and Clemens runs out, and because he's starting game one, and this place erupts. I'm literally getting chills right now. This place erupts. I feel it under my back. The place erupts and goes crazy. The whole upper deck is shaking. I'm freaking out of excitement. I'm also freaking out that the whole thing's going to collapse. But
it was old Yankee Stadium.
It was old Yankee Stadium. But it was such an amazing moment. I might have to do a Clemens card now. So anyway, yeah, we did well. But it was I don't think we won that game. But a couple games later, was that when Jeter did the flip? I think maybe. And
I think that was
got
that year.
Giambi. I think that was then. And then I remember going later in the series. Anyway, it was terrific. And then Luis Gonzalez had to screw everything up in the end. But thanks, buddy. Yeah.
I wish John was here. My John's a Yankee fan as well, and he started watching the Yankees in 2001. So I got to wind him up and needle him about Luis Gonzalez. So,
well, no, don't do that. That's just not a
that's
nice
right.
thing
He likes to
do.
remind me that we won 116 games and couldn't make it, past the first round of the playoffs. So
that's fine. Mm-hmm. No, that does happen. That has happened. It's okay. Anyway. So I started getting into the card design, and I started doing my graffiti art. Then I started, not on the streets, nothing illegal, but doing it all on the iPad. And then some of the stuff you'll see, like, in Instagram, like I was actually going out and taking pictures of the neighborhood and then adding my art to it. You guys scroll up for that stuff.
Sure,
But
okay.
there's the mantle. There's Pokemon cards that I made for my kids.
There's your mantle.
Yeah.
Kobe. Let's get the neighborhood cards.
There's a Hank Aaron in there, but and then I started writing. So Greg Siff.
Yeah, I was saying that looks
fault.
like Gregory Siff right there.
Well, no. So Siff, it's his fault. He started using crink all over the place, and I said, "What's this crink stuff?" And there's a street art called a store called the Scrap Yard that's close by the office, and I said, I need to go there because they sell all this stuff. And I never really worked with spray paint before, and I hate paintbrushes. So, which is weird, a guy that likes to, likes to do what I do. But I found crink and I said, I love this. This is wonderful. And like you have these crink markers that just work wonders. And you'll see, not this one, if you close this up, when we got to Guatemala, my wife said, you should start drawing on things. So like right there, that's the crink mug that I poured. That's a crink baseball. There you go. I crinked the hell out of that baseball. So there's a tequila bottle on there somewhere. And those owls now have crink all over them. So yeah, so there's a whole lot of, crink and sketches and whatnot. And those photos over there on the side, that's some of that stuff, like there was nothing there. And then I've arted all over the place, if you will. Right. There's a couple of guys that are actually pretty famous that have done, or at least in the graffiti and the art world, that did a bunch on that board. And I said, well, I need to add to it. So I did.
Of course.
But all digitally. This is all those canvases are done in the conference room in my art studio. My wife made an appearance on this one. If you close that and you go one up right there, the Josh Gibson, I'm pointing it to it like you know what I'm pointing at.
I'm gonna go with your card.
So if you go to the right for a second, go two over. So this one.
Oops,
all right, now if you
went too far. There you go.
One far. Oh, there's the Kobe one. All right, so now if you click the arrow within there, to scroll to the side.
The arrow.
Oh
yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So if you scroll over, one more. So there was one more time. There was nothing on those walls. That's the picture I took.
Right.
And I said, well, I'm about to join this Josh Gibson thing, so let's combine everything into it and have a fun time. And now if you go back to the first one, you see I've now added all digitally, nothing in the street. So I added everything. I added other pieces that I've done and, and kind of like wheat pasting them up there. And then I added Josh and a bunch of other kinds of styles. And you got a little Gibson MVP logo in the lower left side or lower center. And then, it looks like a person is in the lower left corner, actually.
Yeah, you forgot to crop them out.
Yeah, I forgot to crop the person out. Hey, it's all right. Oh, who knows? All 1,364 or 65 people have now seen this, and that person who we can't really see. So he or she is now not really that famous anyway. So there it is. So anyway, I got into all this stuff, loved it, and have loved Project 2020, loved Project 70, and got in touch with the guys over at the Josh Gibson or NLBMart, and everybody said, let's go. So I joined, and I got into, they plunked me into week 2, and I threw my Chrome card in there, and there it is. There you have it. So I had actually, that card, the Jackie card that you saw before was designed after the 83 tops.
Right.
And I said, I really like the whole idea of the circle, and I like the whole idea of having, the way that card was laid out. So what I did was I just stripped away everything and I kept the circle and I moved it to the middle instead of the side. And I stuck with that kind of feel. And then I said, one of the nice things about making a metallic card is the shine to it. And why not make an entire picture of shine instead of just a part of the card? So I got rid of the borders, usually some sort of border around the side. I said, let's forget that. And I had the card stretch all around. And I used a bunch of images of Josh that I could find. And I said, let's go. Let's see what happens. So we won week 2. and it worked out nicely. It was pretty terrific. So
Yeah,
I was thrilled to be part of it.
The card's pretty amazing. You've won week 2. You'll have stiff competition in the final round, which I think starts next week.
I had no idea that it was going to wind up being this intense. I saw the cards at the beginning and I was like, wow, these are pretty terrific. And then as each week goes on, I really feel like the artists have been looking and going, I really need to get my game going here because this competition is going to be tougher. And then the COAs came through from the Josh Gibson Foundation, Sean, and I launched Craig.art.
Amazing.
And Blake knows this, but kudos to Blake because Blake had a different URL for his store and he went and got Blake.art. And I said, well, I should get Craig.art. Like,
yeah, might as well.
All right, yeah, let's go. Why not? So I went and it was not exactly available. It was available with a little bit more added to it because it was considered a premium domain. Screw you to the domain gods that figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, so I wound up getting it and I launched it 2 days ago. I launched it on the 30th and they're selling. So it's pretty cool. So I've got 40 of the standard cards that are signed by me. I've got another 10 that I'm gonna take a little page out of the book of these Topps artists, and I'm doing 10 hand embellished and signed versions. And then next week, when I'm back in New York and I can actually take pictures and make sure that the quality is a-okay, I also made oversized metallic prints. So I want to say they're 20 by 27, so they're pretty big.
Pretty big, yeah.
Yeah, pretty big, and it has a mount on the back, so you can literally like ready to go on your wall. I did 10 of those. 7 will be signed, 3 will be hand embellished. Those are pretty expensive to make, so they're a little pricier. But the cards are definitely affordable, and a percentage goes to the Josh Gibson Foundation. And I'm super happy to be able to help and make that and help make the foundation stronger, and hopefully, fingers crossed, get that award named after him.
I think we have like 2 weeks to go to the All-Star game. And then,
I think it's 13, 14, 15, somewhere around there. But I know that the Writers Association meets twice a year, and the All-Star game, a lot of them get together. At the end of the year is when they all get together, definitely. So I have my fingers crossed that it's going to happen soon. But if it doesn't happen now, it can always happen later. If they're not all in the room together and can't all get it done soon, then maybe later. Who knows? But it's so deserving. I'm so happy that the stats are now included. But I mean, he's so deserving of it. And, you hear arguments like, well, it wasn't the major league, so maybe his stats wouldn't have been the same. And, I can say there's so many what ifs in the world. There's so many ways to look at it. Do you think that some of the players from the 20s, 30s, and 40s, 50s that are in the Hall of Fame that are outstanding, do you think they would have been just as good during the steroid era? Do you think the pitchers would have fared as well? Do you think those ERAs might have blossomed up into the 4s? Do you think
you had a shine ball then? You can do the shine ball.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, there's a lot of different things that you can factor in, and the league might have been harder, in certain times than others. And I take nothing away whatsoever from the Negro Leagues. There were so many talented players in there that, if things were different back then, you would have had, a significant amount of them a significant amount of those players in the major leagues. There's no reason why they wouldn't be. Some of them might have gone to the minor leagues, just like, there's plenty of, people of all, types in the minor leagues now. But, from all areas of the world. And it's truly, it's horrible and upsetting of everything that happened, back in the early part of the century and prior, but things are, I would think, getting better. And I think that this would be so timely and so wonderful to rename, to rename that award after him now would be such a wonderful showing by Major League Baseball. Just, with everything going on, just to say, you know what, it's about time. Let's just do it. And it's great that the stats are included. That's a great first step, but getting this award renamed after him would be, just outstanding.
Absolutely. All right, Craig, we're going to call it a night. We've been talking for almost an hour now.
We have?
Yeah.
Oh my God. This, I told you, I said, don't give me the microphone, because if you give me the microphone, it's not going to stop.
No, you're the last person tonight, so you can go on and on. I mean, we spent the first half an hour just going background. We didn't even talk about your cards.
I can't. I'm at the office and someone's waiting for me downstairs now for 10 minutes to go home. So
no worries.
You're the one that was drinking. I wasn't. And there it is. I should have been paying attention to the clock too. But I had this over the clock, so I couldn't see. Anyway, whatever.
No. Craig, hey,
very
fantastic.
Nice to meet you.
Give everyone a shout out your social media before we go, so everyone can find you on social media.
You can get me on Twitter or on Instagram. I'm mainly on Instagram at Cleshen, CLESHEN, or you can find me at craig.art, CRAIG.art, and there's obviously links to Twitter and Instagram and all that stuff on there too. So thank you very kindly. This is awesome.
Yeah, we'll do it again sometime, Craig. This is
with Scottish accents, please.
No worries. I'll bring my
gotta break it out.
back in.
Listen, I'll watch Braveheart a few times and I'll just try and blurt out the accent.
Train Spotting. Just watch Train Spotting. It'll be all right.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, just not Spud, right? Because that's impossible.
I met Spud. I see Spud every once in a while. He lives not far from here.
And he doesn't talk like that.
No, not at all. No.
No, exactly. It's just a game. He's just playing. It's called acting. Okay. Anyway, have fun. Great to meet you. Thanks for having me. See ya.
All right.
Bye.
See you later.